I got audio still? Okay, cool. What is my... Oh, it's plus. Plus and minus to save my replay. Okay. I'm not running that though. Ooh. Have Cast Labs open? Yes. Alright. What did I do with my bottle opener? The hell is it? Nice. Fuck. Oh, here it is. All right. Oh boy. Oh boy. Gonna be a good one. It's gonna be a good one. What else is going on?
Was founded to free the slaves. The Republican Party has always stood for civil rights. The Republican Party has always stood for freedom of speech and freedom to worship your God and freedom to live your life free from the tyranny of government and free from the tyranny.
He just played clips the whole video. I don't think there was a single clip I disagreed with except the Candace clip. Dude has no idea anyone under 30 actually believes. So true. So true. These people are, if nothing, they're out of touch. Why is my YouTube chat not popping up on this? Ugh, that's irritating. Whatever. I could just look at it manually. Yeah, man. These people are out of touch. If nothing else. They don't really know what young people believe. They don't even know what young people care about or how young people communicate. Like, Gen Z humor is like dark and edgy, and that alone should like indicate or rather sort of gives way to jokes about things that are like taboo just by nature of the edginess. Because, you know, Gen Z grew up on the internet. So like, yeah, you're gonna expect like jokes about the Holocaust, for example, or Nazis, stuff you're not supposed to joke about. And rather than like acknowledge that, you know, laugh it off, you know, have a moment of humility, it's just constant doubling down. It's just constant emotional manipulation and you know, this moralizing, this pearl clutching. This is terrible, this is evil. And rather than like saying like, well, yeah, you know, they're edgy, it's just constant browbeating and cancellation. There's no moment of magnanimity. It's just, look at how evil and reprehensible these people are. Just non-stop, dude. It's honestly insufferable. They learn nothing, man. They learn nothing. Is this working now? Did this finally connect to my YouTube chat? Let me run a little test here. This popping up. There we go. Cool. Alright, now it works. I can move this back over. Very cool. Yeah. But all, like, just this whole weekend, man, with the Jewish Republican coalition, that whole thing, a Republican Jewish coalition, just constant kvetching, constant browbeating. It's like, dude, I'm over it. I think we're all over it. I think we're all well past that. So we'll get into it in a minute. We'll get into all this in just a minute. Is there anything else new going on? I don't recall Matt Walsh ever talking about Pat Buchanan. What's up, Jans? Helping cover this. Here we are. We're gonna get into it in a minute. Gonna, wait a little bit for people to trickle in. It's been, dude, it's been delicious. It's been delectable watching this absolute meltdown from people like Shapiro, Mark Levin, Laura Loomer, all these other chauvinists, all these other Jewish chauvinist Israeli firsters. It's been chef's kiss. They don't know how to stop, man. They don't know how, like, it's always double down. It's always like more name calling, more kvetching, more victim narrative. Where's the moment of humility? Where's the moment where they sort of have like a realization that they could have kept this going for like another century, maybe longer, if they just knew how to pump the brakes, if they just had a little bit of humility, a little bit of self-awareness, an ability to laugh at themselves or be critical of themselves, to self-reflect. I know this is a tired point, this is maybe trite at this point, but it is like the Holocaust is their religion. It is what is held sacred. You can't make light of it, you can't joke about it, you can't have any kind of revisionism. You have to care about it. You can't be indifferent. You have to be an ally, or you have to be totally on sides with the narrative. Otherwise, you are a Holocaust revisionist, Holocaust denier, Nazi sympathizer. Like, what other event like that in human history carries that much weight in society today? I can't think of anything. He's getting cooked in his YouTube comments under the video. Oh, I believe it. I believe it, dude. The best part is a majority of the Groypers probably went through a Ben Shapiro facts and logic phase. Probably. Like, it was part of the pipeline, Rewind 15 years ago, everyone was a libertarian. That was like the thing. That was like the most hardcore you could be. That was like the dialectic. Like, are you like a neocon or card-carrying Republican, so to speak, a party man, or are you like this like outsider, this kind of anti-establishment? Because that's kind of always been the way it's been built to some degree, is it's been establishment versus anti-establishment rather than, necessarily like Republican versus Democrat. I know still we operate in that dichotomy, but I think something more, I guess, realistic or maybe more appropriate is to view it from the lens of establishment versus anti-establishment. And there's various factions within that, but so like 15 years ago, it was the libertarian. That was the anti-establishment stance. And then you saw the rise in like the mid 2010s with like Jordan Peterson, Ben Shapiro. We own the libs with facts and logic. And it's like so fucking cringe, and Steven Crowder, his ascent, and Alex Jones was there the whole time, and gradually, and then, Trump blew the whole lid off of, sort of planted the idea of nationalism in the minds of millions of Americans and made a lot of Americans more race conscious. That was like the big red pilling. A lot of people became aware of nationalism as a concept versus globalism. You know, the interests of the American people versus the interests of, you know, a very small elite, international elite, bankers and whatnot, whatever you, you know what I'm talking about. And that just made people aware of what is in their interests. And it kind of woke people up to the rhetoric that I think pretty much everybody was regurgitating at that time. But, you know, with the most recent red pilling, the question of like identity is really becoming mainstream. Race, identity, as well as religion, demographics shaping the destiny of your country. And I think that's a question that's being thrust upon Americans because the demographics are rapidly changing. You know, we're going from a country that was a 1.98+% white, even about 87% white just 30 years ago. Now we're about 58% white. So things are changing. And you can see, you can simply observe and compare and contrast the country today from 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, etc. And any inquisitive person asks the question, why? Why are things changing? You know, things are getting worse. Why are things getting worse? And I think a lot of people are at that point where the reasons that are being given are not compelling. And that's what leads inquisitive people down this line of questioning. You know, curious people become inquisitive. They start asking questions. And when they're answered and the answers are insufficient by the establishment, then they look elsewhere. So here we are, fast forward to 2025, you know, people are getting red pilled. Because if you have an official explanation and the alternative explanation makes a lot more sense, seems to line up with the reality a lot more, and then there's evidence behind that, then that's how you red pill people. I mean, this is very kind of basic remedial stuff. But now what we're seeing is people, you know, we're seeing the reaction from the establishment. They are now forced to talk about Nick. They've avoided him for years. They pretended like he doesn't matter. He's irrelevant. And now it's like they can't ignore him anymore. He is mainstream. Nick is mainstream. Period. And it's crazy how quickly this all happened. We're watching history in the making, which is crazy to say. But things are changing in real time, rapidly, dramatically. And so, yeah, now they are forced to address Nick. They're forced to address his ideas. They're forced to address his argument. And for somebody like Ben Shapiro, and here's another thing. These people grifted for years off of open debate, debating the ideas. You know, the left deals in this name calling, and they shut down debate. They censor. But we believe that sunlight is the best disinfectant. Unless you're a Holocaust Nazi. Unless you're a Nazi. Wait, hang on a second. Didn't you just attack the left for years? Because they called everybody they didn't like or that was remotely conservative a Nazi? They called Ben Shapiro a Nazi at one point. They called Charlie Kirk a Nazi. So it's it creates this boy who cried wolf situation where who believes these people anymore? It's like there is a double standard. There's a clear double standard here. And somebody like Ben Shapiro, that makes him pretty hypocritical. For years he's talked about debate, but he won't debate. He's not serious. He doesn't actually stand by his principles or what he says are his principles. And that is, if there's anything, I think, that wakes people up the most, it's gotta be double standards and hypocrisy. People don't like it when the rules apply to themselves, but not to others, when they're held by different standards. That's something that you are aware of when you're in kindergarten. Wait a second. Why does he get the ice cream? Why does he get the candy bar? I want fucking candy. I want ice cream. Why does he get to stay up late? Or if you have like, if you're like playing like a game on the playground and like somebody's making up rules as they go. You know, if you ever play like Foursquare and the king gets to make the rules and he's like, okay, the king and queen, we're aligned, we're on the same team, and you know, the other two, what is it? It's like king, queen, jack, toilet, right? Is that right? It's an old game. It's a deep pull. People probably don't know what I'm talking about, but we've all been there. Where you're playing tag, you tag somebody and they say, actually, I put up a force field barrier. I'm not it. You're still it. I had a force field barrier. You didn't know about that? Well, you should have. You should have read the. You know, they just make shit up, and you're like. What? So even children are able to clock that. And so when you see this in real time happening on the highest level, it's like that. I think is waking a lot of people up. It's just like the debate about race. It's like, okay, well, let me get this straight. So like, and I know this is trite, but everyone else gets to talk about race and be proud of their race except for white people. How does that make any sense? How is that fair? Not fair. So is fairness really what they care about? And then you realize it's really not about principles or fairness. It's about power. It's about rhetoric. It's about, you know, disarming white people, enabling these other ethnic groups through ethnic grievances, like kind of galvanizing them around that to take power from white people, to disenfranchise white people of America or the West in general. So you think about things in a much grander way. So now the question's been really posed. People have been discussing this relentlessly for the past few years. I mean, if you've been in politics, in this kind of dissident space, you know what I'm talking about. And it's at that point where, look, they can't stop him. They can't stop Nick. These ideas are becoming mainstream. The people are with Nick Fuentes. The people are Groypers. The Groypers own America. And it's only a matter of time because, look, somebody like Tucker dodged Nick for years, to be honest. And Tucker's, you know, he's been willing to have that conversation. And maybe we could get into why that is. But ultimately, Tucker felt compelled to do so. Like he had to. Because he could have had Nick on at any point in time during Nick's career, during his ascent. So the question is, why now? Why now all of a sudden in 2025 when it's not like Nick, this is, you know, Nick came out of nowhere or these ideas are new per se. These ideas have been around. And so these people, they understand it's unavoidable. The public sentiment, the consensus is changing. And this is where we need to be a little careful. We need to be smart because there are going to be people who are still trying to gatekeep, still trying to repurpose some of this energy either for their own gain or to redirect it for something else. For example, a lot of people understand, they're at the point where they understand the criticisms of Israel, and they'll try to have it both ways. They'll try to ride that line and say, well, we think now, let's say hypothetically, we go back to war with Iran, we bomb Iran, we conduct regime change, and then Israel is the hegemon, becomes the hegemon in the Middle East. At that point in time, how much does Israel really need America? And so very conveniently, you'll probably see a lot of these opportunistic politicians say, well, now Israel doesn't need us anymore. We should disengage from the Middle East entirely. And it'll sound like people will say like, yes, finally you're coming around to our side. But what the difference is that the circumstances have changed. Israel is trying to accomplish their goals in that region, and what happens when they do exactly? They need America right now because they have very real adversaries in the region. And so once they obtain the hegemony in the region, once Iran is toppled, then they're uncontested. And so really they don't need America. They don't need that strong threat of hard power nearly as much if their biggest threat is eliminated. And so why then would we necessarily want to just hand over the Middle East to Israel? my point is, we have leverage over them right now. We should be utilizing that. Israel should be doing what we say, because without us, without America, they would not exist. Simply put, they wouldn't have come into existence. They would have lost a long time ago. You know, these hostile Muslim countries would have overrun them decades ago. So with that being said, if Iran is toppled, that totally changes the situation. And so I look at a lot of these, and I think that will be the pivot. That will be how a lot of these people will pivot. They'll hop on a lot of this anti-Israel, America first nationalist sentiment. But what they're really doing, they're still conducting diplomacy on behalf of Israel, because they want Israel to be unshackled from America once they are independent militarily, and then they'll focus on China. So anyway, what's up, Hippocratic? I've seen that the Jews are saying we should go our separate ways. It's a little premature, but they're planting the idea. Yeah, I think that's 100% what's coming. And somebody like Tucker, or other, you could say, neocons, deep state, there is some internal power struggles going on, but they want to prioritize China. They see China, and this is great power politics, they see China as the greater threat to American hegemony, obviously, than Iran, and that's, I think, indisputable. And so they want to combat China along the fault lines, like Taiwan, to try and curb their growth, curb their power. And it's very difficult to do that when we're tied up in the Middle East, because we've got limited resources. And so they really want to hand over the Middle East to Israel so we can focus on China. And so I think Tucker probably falls more into that category. And so we have to be careful. We have to be careful not to, because a lot of people are going to sound like us. They'll chum up to our ideas, to us, and say, yeah, we're with you, we should. But China's the real threat. And it's going to be a different situation in a year. Mark my words, it'll be a different situation. So, no, I don't think we should hand over the Middle East to Israel. I think that's certainly not in our interests. What's up, DeAndre? What's with the whole Make Israel Great Again group freaking out? So it all started with the Tucker interview with Nick, and they're freaking out. We're gonna react to this in just a few minutes. But they had a conference over the weekend, the Republican Jewish Coalition or Committee, some combination of those. I always get it mixed up. And they're all kvetching. You had people like Mark Levin, was kvetching. Ted Cruz, Lindsey Graham, all these people disavowing Nick and Tucker, saying they're not America first, and these people are all Jewish, so clearly they have ulterior motives. They're not America first. Clearly, based on what they care about the most. Did they throw a big stink when, like, Charlie Kirk or any of these people were interviewing, like, or were platforming transgenders or homosexuals or anything like that? I mean, when Candace Owens interviewed Harvey Weinstein, where was the outcry about how immoral that is? You're platforming a degenerate? You're platforming a sexual miscreant? So this idea, like, clearly, just the level of response and outcry is so much greater when it's any kind of anti-Israel sentiment than anything else. Still sit down with abortionists, people who kill babies in the womb, and advocate for that, and they'll have an honest conversation, or what you would assume is an honest, good faith conversation. But somebody that says, hey, maybe Israel's not our greatest ally, literal Nazi, literal Holocaust denier. Anyway, so they've just been kvetching about that interview because first of all, like, let's just take a look at it. That interview is, it blew up. It was a major success, unanimous. I think it was like unanimous, except for the Jews. Everyone loved it. Has 5.2 million views in a week, just on YouTube. Doesn't include like other platforms like X. And everyone has been supportive. Look at the ratio. Look at the like to dislike ratio. People are making jokes about Ben Shapiro, Mossad. Like people know what's up. People know what's up. It's like, I'll talk to normie friends and we'll talk about like, you know, stuff that I don't think people would have given a shit about like 3 or 4 years ago. Talking about like Kash Patel's Mossad girlfriend, you know? So yeah, people are becoming way more awake to this stuff. That's what Hammer said in the Dave Smith debate. Once they separate, that doesn't solve the other issues inside the United States about dual loyalties, etc. Yeah, look, that just goes to show it's not just about Israel or the government of Israel. The problem is deeper than that. It's not just Zionists. The problem is deeper than that. Like, you're not going to decouple Zion. First of all, good luck decoupling Zionism from collective Jewry. It's not going to happen. It's just not. And think of it like realistically. So it's like, this is a very common belief among Jews, secular Jews, religious Jews, about the nation of Israel and you know, the existence of Israel and whatnot. Are they going to cancel their family members? Are they going to cut ties and disenfranchise or disempower their family members, their rabbis, their best friends, their brothers, their sisters, their cousins, their whole network? Are they going to do that? Is that in their best interests in terms of their own potential, in terms of their own economic or social options, their own clout or their own network? It doesn't really make sense. They want what's best for themselves and their family, and by extension, the Jewish people. That's just common sense. What's up? What's up, Kumquat? And so even if you have somebody that is very staunchly anti-Zionist, they're not going to like uproot their Jewish, you know, uncle out from politics, because that's not in their interests. And it's you can get granular with it. You can get very sort of on like a personal individual level, and you just scale that up. You know, family members, friends. It's just like, yeah, it's a lot harder to cancel people based on ideology if that person is your brother. You know what I'm saying? And so there's a lot of layers to this. It's not, people who think that it's just a problem of Zionism don't really understand what we're dealing with here. Yeah, there will be signs for the fake AF politicians to come. Their donors will give them away. Yeah, their donors, their history, you know, and ultimately it's like, look, we have the coalition build at some point. That's a political reality. And so it is a matter of like how we use people. How can Tucker be used? And that's a better way to look at this than like Tucker's all of a sudden our big best friend. I don't think that's true. Yeah, I'm still very skeptical of Tucker. I think it's great that he's starting to sound more like us, but just based on his history, his track record, his background, I remain skeptical. And you hold these people at arm's length, and that's politics. You think Nick trusts any of these people? He doesn't. And that's a smart thing to do. It's about gaining something. It's all about leverage and deals and optics. So, and that's a political reality. Like, we can't just deal in polemics all day. We can't be hostile to people who are amenable to our ideas, even if they're not necessarily fully you know, of the same background or of the identity that we're trying to protect. For example, like, you've got like Wignats that are saying like TND and shit. It's like, okay, good luck winning. First of all, I disavow that kind of rhetoric, that kind of mentality. I think that's immoral. But even just from a like any kind of political reality, who the fuck do you think you're going to convince with that kind of rhetoric? You think you're going to go to like normal people and make your ideas heard, like have your ideas seriously heard? It's just terrible optics. And so we need to be smart about that. But anyway. So yeah, there will be signs because the tide is turning. There will be opportunists, you know, a lot of opportunists out there. 100%. So, but we'll see, you know, look, and that's always going to be the case when something goes mainstream. You're going to get people that are not fully ideologically aligned or not aligned at all. Like, we've already seen that. Like, how many people grifted off of like dropping the N-bomb or doing something polemical on the internet, and then they start up their GoFundMe, and then they start their podcast career. I fucking hate that shit, man. Like Lily Gaddis, I bring her up because like she dropped an N-bomb, unsurprisingly, and I think she filmed it herself or something. unsurprisingly, went viral. She got fired. She starts a GoFundMe, starts a podcast. She's doing interviews with all of these other right-wing influencers and whatnot. Do you really think this person is ideologically on our side? I don't think so. Not for a second. So you gotta be careful of these grifters. Anyway. Make America First politicians, yeah. You allowed your like it at the 6 million? Yeah, we gotta get to 6 million. That's the trick of Candy and Tucker. They want to limit hate to Netanyahu and Israel and not the team, but they were a problem in 1921 when they went after Henry Ford and Charles Lindbergh in 1941. Yeah, look, it's textbook limited hangout. And they want to remain relevant. That's why I feel Tucker was in many ways compelled to do that interview, because he was losing public support. He had to. Now look at it. And I support him. I salute him. He took a major risk. They hate him. Clearly, the Jews hate Tucker Carlson. And so there's a lot of value in that. Having Tucker, like somebody like Tucker in our camp or having a common enemy, there's a lot of value in that. But we just can't be stupid. We can't, we can't give up the keys to the castle, so to speak. America First has the leverage, not so much Tucker. So, and that's true for like anybody. It's like you're either America First or you're not. So, let's watch Game of Thrones 5 times, cycle through it 5 times, then you can have an opinion on politics IRL. Wuza is live. Nick Fuentes, the leader of the white race. Dude, that was so funny. Did you see that? Did you see Wuza go up to XQC and ask him if he would do a stream with Nick? Like, wait a second, who is that? That was funny. Why are you trying to steal Wuza viewership? Am I doing that? That was never a Wuza head. The Kobe streaming times. Anyway, let's just hop into this. Let's see what this is all about. I can only imagine.
Last week, but I wanted to take some... Hey, folks, I want to do something different on today's show. We're going to cover one topic in depth. That topic is, I think, the most important thing happening in the country. It was a hot topic last week, but I wanted to take some time to really gather my thoughts and speak on it in coherent fashion, holistic fashion. That topic is the fragmentation of the political right. That fragmentation is being caused purposefully by a splinter faction of people led by a young man named Nick Fuentes.
Yeah, because it needs to be fragmented. This idea that, okay, first of all, what is unity? You have to unify around something, a common cause, a common identity, a common purpose. And purpose for what exactly? So this idea that just because things are unified, that's a good thing, that's not true. The left, in many ways, is unified around their worldview. Do we agree with the left? Do we think that's a good thing? A side note, look at his book title. Lions and Scavengers, The True Story of America. Yes, Ben Shapiro, please tell us the true story of America. Not one ad, the whole video, by the way. Oh, damn. Then you know it's serious. If he's not here to collect his shekels, you know it's serious. You know he means business. When was the last time he did that? When was the last time he went ad-free? Was he dropping ads when Charlie Kirk died? When he was killed? When Charlie Kirk was killed? Did he have an ad read? Gotta look into that. That'd be kind of funny. So terrible that Charlie Kirk died and got shot in the neck. But what will really look good around your neck are these gold necklaces you can get from my Jewish friend. Use code Ben Shapiro for 20% off. Get your mother something nice for her birthday. Get your wife something nice for Christmas. Charlie Kirk won't be giving anything to his wife this Christmas because he just got shot in the neck. But use code Ben Shapiro for 20% off your next purchase. Yeah, if you're skipping on the notifications. Oh, what's up, Smelly? How's it going? Yeah, shalom, everybody. Shalom. Yeah, no ads is crazy from Ben. He's like the biggest salesperson. The biggest shill. Anyway.
They call themselves the Groypers. They are white supremacists. They hate women, Jews, Hindus, many types of Christians, brown people of a wide variety of backgrounds, blacks.
Wait, but I thought that, I thought Nick Fuentes was brown. What's up? All these people are telling me that Nick Fuentes is brown. How can that be? That's such a contradiction. All these wignats assured me that Nick was a Mexican, and he was a fair-skinned, green-eyed brown guy. Oh, that's the first brown guy I've ever seen that looks like that. Kirk lost a lot of blood, but you know what doesn't have any blood? Good ranchers, kosher steaks. Yeah, true. Good rancher, kosher steaks. Oh, man. Yeah. It's just like, dude, let's just time out for a second. All of this was sparked by Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes having a very polite, not even debate, discussion. They just talked. And it wasn't really contentious at all. I mean, there may be a little bit here and there, but for the most part, they agreed on far more than they disagreed. And it seemed like they both walked away from that interview probably pretty pleasantly surprised with one another with maybe a new perspective. And here is Ben Shapiro and many of these other Jews. And again, rather than sitting down with these people, with Nick or Tucker, and pick their brains and see if there's any kind of common ground or understanding or any way that we can resolve this conflict. And that's what, remember, Charlie Kirk was all about that. Or so he said, that he wanted to try to find common ground and debate the ideas and see if we can, through that we can find a common understanding and heal, so to speak. So many of these people grifted on that for years. Why not just have Nick on your show and you can say all of these things to his face? If we're all just stupid fucking idiots and we can't think for ourselves and we're being duped by these backwards, evil, illogical ideas coming from this evil Nick Fuentes, surely you, a 175,000 IQ Jewish gigagenius, could easily debunk Nick Fuentes. Surely, right? Surely. If you had facts and logic, emphasis on the facts, then you're the one that's right. You have truth on your side. What do you have to fear? So it just doesn't logically, talk about facts and logic, it doesn't really make sense. It doesn't logically make sense. If you have the facts on your side, how really could you lose? Especially if you consider yourself a skilled debater and a master of the topics. Are you not confident in yourself, Ben? What's the deal? What's the problem here? Yeah, thank you for the greatest hits, Ben Shapiro Goiper. Yeah, true. I donated to Rabbi Shmuley's security after he got scared he would be next after Charlie Kirk. You got a dildo thank you gift. Many are saying this. Yes. Dude, yeah, do you guys remember that? I wonder, I have to wonder, is like Rabbi Shmuley, is he like playing a part? It is hard to imagine somebody having that level of chutzpah. Seriously. Charlie Kirk dies. Not even 24 hours later, Rabbi Shmuley goes out and said, my dear friend Charlie Kirk just got assassinated. I fear for my life. I could be next. Donate to me for my personal security detail and my GoFundMe. It's like, are you fucking serious right now? The level of shamelessness. It's so brazen. You have to wonder, like, is he playing a caricature? Is this a psyop of some sort? Like, is he out there to just be the, like, most ridiculous, most, like, stereotypical, the worst elements of Jewishness you can possibly imagine? For what purpose? What? So, like, somebody like Ben Shapiro can say, well, we actually criticize our own because I disavow Rabbi Shmuley. I think he's disgusting. Is that the point, to, like, give credibility? Or maybe is it something more sinister? Like, do they, is he there to play a role to create more anti-Semitism so they can justify greater levels of censorship or whatever? It is, like, so hard to believe, but, and again, I don't rule it out that somebody like Rabbi Shmuley is genuine. Like, that's just who he is. It's like, to our Gentile minds, that is, like, borderline incomprehensible. But I don't know. But then you see what Israel's doing and some of what these Jews are saying to defend it, and it's just like, maybe it's not that far off the mark. So Tweet from Bill Ackman, a comprehensive review of Nick Fuentes and his enablers, including at Tucker Carlson, and the risk to conservatism and the American right. Lifetime. Live worried about conservatism. Yeah, let's let Bill Ackman, who never voted Republican, never voted conservatism, never voted conservative until after October 7th, tell us what right-wing politics is all about. Yeah, I don't think so. Black brothers and sisters, the demon rats had your reparations in their hand when they opened the border and gave it all to the illegals. Yeah. Was a living legend, now a legendary great. After Jesus returns, Charlie Kirk becomes an eternal legend. Deport. Biden wrapped his lips around my asshole and sucked every fart out of his ass and then... Okay. All right, man. All right, I don't know where you're going on. Damn. What's going on, Trav? Okay, I got it. Anyways, let's just keep going.
America's foreign policy and America's Constitution. They admire Hitler and Stalin. And that splinter faction is now being facilitated and normalized within the mainstream Republican Party. The main agent in that normalization is Tucker Carlson, who is an intellectual coward, a dishonest interlocutor, and a terrible friend.
Schizo.
And Tucker Carlson last week was aided, abetted, celebrated for normalizing Nazism within the Republican Party by the mainstay organization of the traditional right, the Heritage Foundation. Now, before we explain what's been happening, let's make one thing clear. This is not about free speech or cancellation. It was never about free speech or cancellation. Free speech has a definition, the right to speak free of governmental coercion. I believe in it, of course. I've always defended it. Criticism of bad
What's going on in chat? Trav, what's going on? You okay? You okay, Trav? Hang on a second, guys. Well, what's going on, Trav? What the fuck? Kumquat needs to deport Trav. Yeah. I'm not I don't like, dude, what's going on here? Do I have to moderate? I don't really want to. But dude, what? Stop spamming nonsense.
Is in fact just a form of free speech. Cancellation also has a definition, the banning of particular people, including people like Nick Fuentes, from platforms like X or Facebook. I believe that Nick Fuentes is odious and despicable, but I've never called for his cancellation, and in fact, I've called for his restoration to those services, despite the fact that I think he's odious and despicable.
So can somebody fact check that? Is that true? Has he called for the restoration? I vaguely remember that he did. But I think it's one of those cases where I don't think he's necessarily genuine about that. I don't. I think that's more or less lip service. Like he has, to a high degree, at least when he made that statement, he probably had a high degree of confidence that would not happen. And I mean, he could have put pressure on these institutions to re-platform Nick, to unban or uncancel him, but he clearly didn't. So he didn't really take a principled stance. I think it's just cheap lip service to say that he did, to say that he was principled. But yeah, make no mistake about it, that he has, I have no doubt in reality, he would prefer if Nick were censored. So. Love you guys, I'm handicapped. That has to be bait. I sit in a wheelchair all day long with no friends. I sit in a room all by myself all day on the phone. Yeah, that's bait. That's all bait. that's definitely bait. But whatever.
It is not cancellation to draw moral lines between viewpoints. In fact, we used to call that one of the key aspects of conservatism. It is not cancellation to refuse to signal boost Hitler's supporters like Nick Fuentes. It is not cancellation to criticize Tucker Carlson for rhetorically fluffing Nick Fuentes and other anti-American crackpots. It's not cancellation if you urge others to stop promoting those who rhetorically fluff Nazi apologists. Those are all elements of free speech. And anyone who says differently is lying to you, and lying for the most cynical reasons, to misdirect from their own defense of those Nazi apologists and their promoters. The issue here isn't that Tucker Carlson had Nick Fuentes on his show last week. He has every right to do that, of course. The issue here is that Tucker Carlson decided to normalize and fluff Nick Fuentes, and that the Heritage Foundation then decided to robustly defend that performance. Those who criticize...
It's not bad. I, too, am handicapped and sitting in a chair all day long. Oh, me too. I guess we're all handicapped.
Both Tucker and Heritage aren't canceling. They are quite properly drawing a moral line. So, for those who don't understand what's going on, let's begin with Nick Fuentes. Now, as I mentioned, last week, Tucker Carlson had on Nick Fuentes. Fuentes is a 27-year-old man who's dubbed himself the leader of a movement called the Groypers. He has a large audience of alienated young white men in particular, and he's earned increased media attention over the course of the past.
I mean, if we want to be really technical, if I'm going to actually him, I mean, technically the movement is America First, and the members are Groypers.
Few years, especially over the last year. Now, from Tucker...
But I don't even know if he wants to necessarily even say that. I wonder if Ben doesn't even want him to mention that his movement is called America First. I don't even think he wants to bring attention to the contradiction of supporting Israel, but putting America first at the same time. I wonder.
Tucker Carlson's interview, you might have gathered that Fuentes has some borderline views on race, a peculiar obsession with what he calls organized Jewry, and a rather sad relationship with the female sex. But probably you came away thinking that, for the most part, Fuentes lives on the radical edge of normality. You think that if you watch the interview, because Tucker Carlson decided that it was important not only to host Fuentes, but to smooth over his views, water them down, and make them far more palatable to a normal audience. As we'll discuss in a bit, this is what Tucker Carlson does for a living. But back to Nick Fuentes. To understand just what Tucker did here, we must actually examine what Nick Fuentes says on his show, and has said for almost a decade. Because he was asked...
Oh boy, dude, the clip farming, bro. Here comes the... Dude, we're just gonna see a barrage. Is this just like a compilation of Nick's greatest hits? Is Ben Shapiro shaming him for being a virgin right now? Sounds like it. Sounds like it. You know, these people are so gratuitous. They're so gross. Hypersexual. Like, don't you people think about anything other than sex? Come on now. Yeah, Ben Shapiro, the infamous Giga Chad, who's slaying Poon all the time. But look, even then, it's like, dude, how much do we really like? How much, like, do we really care about women's opinions? I mean, come on now. Come on now. It's like Ben Shapiro. Do you understand how right-wing people in the, say, below 30 age bracket, do you have any idea how conservative, how right-wing they really are? Not even conservative. I don't even want to say that anymore. It's not really descriptive enough. Do you have any idea? Do you have any idea that like Gen Alpha, they're all racist, they're all homophobic, misogynistic, and anti-Semitic? Like, you don't even know that. Like, you're presupposing we're just going to agree with you because why? Because Nick is critical of women, especially women in politics, that he's critical of their behavior. That's a sad relationship with women. Would you argue that women, their behavior right now is acceptable? You think that there's no problem? We only criticize men? Read the fucking room, bro. Read the room. Yeah. Yeah, we are misogynistic. Yeah. We are racist. Yeah. We are anti-Semitic by the standard that's been set by the mainstream. And it's not a very high bar to achieve. Because I guess if you criticize like women being whores and say that that's a bad thing, that makes you misogynistic. You have a bad relationship with women. Oh, okay. So, sounding, Ben Shapiro, for being so anti-liberal, sounds a lot like a liberal right now. Sounds a lot like a liberal, huh? He's a virgin, but Tucker... That's yeah, according to Ben, yeah, I got fluffed by Tucker. That's crazy. He only talks for 4 minutes at the end, but it's literally 30-something minutes of clips. No shot. BRB gonna go take a massive Patriot shit 07, I salute you. He sounds like a teenage girl, real. He's just kvetching. He's just crying, bro. Just crying.
Precisely 0 questions about any of what you're about to see by Tucker Carlson. Nick Fuentes says women want to be raped.
A lot of women want to be raped. And
it's true.
When I say raped, I mean like...
Look, dude, there's a study. It's something like 70% of women admit to having rape fantasies. And frankly, it's a matter of opportunity. It's a matter of possibilities. Like, if a stronger, more dominant guy is going to come along that has, like, better genes, then it's, in a certain sense, in that woman's interests to be more amenable to the idea of being taken. Especially if it's like warring villages or nations where, you know, she doesn't want to die. But if she's not, like, gonna give into that, like, she'll die. Like, they'll kill her. So that kind of mentality, you see where it comes from, this sort of opportunism. So, yeah, women want to be the prize. They want to be this, like, resource, almost. Be protected and fought over, in the way we fight over and protect land. And it sounds dehumanizing, because in many ways it is. But women dehumanize themselves all the time. They treat themselves like property. They treat themselves like objects. They complain about being over-sexualized. They over-sexualize themselves. And the most overt case is OnlyFans and pornography and maybe more popularly, like, these movie stars or whatever that all have, like, that. They object themselves and whatnot. But even, like, dude, even you talk to, like, women in, like, just like a work environment. Like, you take them out of the work environment in a more casual situation, and you speak candidly with them, they'll reveal the most, like, intimate, like, sexual, oftentimes, like, repulsive inclinations or history. And they don't really see the problem with that. They talk about sex in mixed group way more than men do, I think. So, well, whatever. The background hasn't been used for like 3 or 4 years, right? He really fucking dived deep looking for that clip. No, this was no, Nick changed studio like a year and a half ago. So, Ben Shapiro takes it in the Anderson pooper, straight up. Very interesting. He even said a lot, not all. They're doing him exactly what the media was doing to Trump. They got him elected in 2016. Yeah, it's just like, you can make certain generalizations. Obviously, there are exceptions. Dude, the thing is, I am so tired of qualifying everything. You know, it's like, it goes both ways. There are people in the right wing that overgeneralize, and then people that don't understand generalizations think you can't generalize at all. I am tired of having to like qualify every statement. It's not all women that are acting this way, that are like doing OnlyFans and shit. That kind of goes without saying, though. Like, do we have to like say that, like, yeah, and not all guys are like gooners, not all guys are simps? Like, obviously not. Or rather, obviously that's true. Obviously, I am tired of having to constantly qualify, because people really are fucking retarded and don't understand that. Like, seriously, they don't understand standard distributions, exceptions versus a regression to the mean. And it's just exhausting, dude. It's so exhausting. And frankly, when somebody in the Big 25, if you make a general statement that that obviously has exceptions, like the average woman is, I don't know what, 5'4", and somebody goes, well, my wife is 5'7", or a woman says, well, I'm 5'7", and you're like, okay, so it's not all women. Obviously not. Obviously not. That was never the statement. And so, dude, if you're perceptive, if you ever find yourself in a conversation with somebody like that, you're dealing with somebody that's either like low IQ or has like rationalized themselves to a place of just nonsense, right? They're just not, they're too stubborn to really understand, or they're like legitimately low IQ where they just can't understand the abstract, maybe they're too emotionally invested, but it's just like not really worth continuing that conversation. You're not going to go anywhere with it. Yeah. Anyway.
That sounds bad when I say it like that.
What's up, Nicer? Stream, you like
a
to goon.
lot
You're
of
a
women
gooner,
that
Nicer.
really want a guy to
You are
beat
gooning.
the shit out of them.
You are a gooner.
But also, they have to pretend, but part of it is they have to pretend like they don't.
Nick Fuentes says that his followers should kill, rape, and die in his name.
Raise your right hand. All right, everybody raise your right hand. Raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I will kill, rape,
This got
and
retired,
die
by the way. This is
for
not a thing
Nicholas
anymore.
J. Fuentes.
Nick Fuentes says that women are whores who shouldn't be in politics.
Based.
I will continue my crusade against women in politics. Because it's always like this, and it's so ironic. Women are like, I don't like, when you say, you have to affect the face. When you say to repeal the 19th Amendment, that offends me. That hurts my feelings. It's like, have you ever stopped and considered that maybe if you get offended, there's such a strong emotional reaction to political opinions you disagree with across the board. Maybe that's one of the reasons why you shouldn't be making political decisions.
So
I'm
true,
not attacking
King.
women.
So true.
I'm attacking whores. You have no problems, right? I'm attacking whores.
So
I'm
true,
attacking
King.
sluts. Stupid, dirty bitches.
Nick Fuentes says
So like Ben Shapiro's taking the side of whores and sluts. That's crazy. Yeah.
that Jim Crow was actually better for black people.
It was better for them too, number one, but number two, who cares? Who cares? Enough with the Jim Crow stuff. Who cares? Oh, they had to drink out of a different water fountain. Big fucking deal. Oh no, they had to go to a different school. Their water fountain in that famous picture was worse. Who cares? Grow up, drink out of the fucking water fountain. It's water, it's the same. And even if it was bad, who cares? Who cares? It's better. It's better in general. We all agree it was better for them. It's better for us. Better in general.
Nick Fuentes says that white people are justified in being racist.
Bro, it's literally just the greatest
Reason
hits.
that we talk
It's literally just the greatest fucking hits. Whores and sluts is a Judeo-Christian value. Bro, it is. Yeah, Emphasis on the Judeo part,
about
of
this,
course.
by the way. I know a lot of black people see this and they go, man, why are you always
Ben has become BuzzFeed. That's wild.
talking about black people, this and that?
He became the very thing he sought to destroy. Ben, how can you let this happen to yourself? Benjamin. Oy vey. What happened? You used to be so principled. Now you're siding with the liberals? Ugh. Oy Gewalt. What's gotten into you?
Because there just needs to be
There's
some
some-
shame
yeah.
here. Well, there's a few reasons. First, white people are every single bit justified in being racist. Every single bit justified, to the extent that that means going out of your way to avoid black people when you see them.
Nick Fuentes is a Hitler admirer.
I mean, dude. Do you want to end up like Irina Zarutska? Obviously, not including the context of what he was talking about. Of course, that's ignored. Let's ignore the context for all of these clips, too. Let's just make Nick look as bad as possible. Never mind the fact that, okay, so should you, knowing crime statistics, I don't know, kind of naively walk through the south side of Chicago through a black neighborhood? Especially if you're a white guy? Does that sound like everyone kind of instinctually knows not to fucking do that? So, knowing that there are a lot of violent black people out there, and this is just common sense, this is painful because obviously Ben knows Nick isn't talking about all black people. Obviously. Everybody knows that. And even to an instinctual level. Other black people are very careful, especially like professional, like wealthy, intelligent black people. Yeah, they don't fuck around in the hood because they know it's dangerous. And we could get into why that's the case, but ultimately this is reality. If you were to flip a coin, or rather, if it were just a matter of statistics, why would you take that gamble knowing that you have a higher chance just based on probability of getting like violently assaulted by somebody that's black than by somebody that's white? Doesn't mean you hate black people. Doesn't mean you condemn all black people and the whole black race. And so it's like this kind of like these weaselly tactics, a complete disregard for the context. It's very disingenuous. Nick is Obi-Wan on the high ground. Yeah, true. I really used to love Ben. Loved him so much I would have suck a fart out of his ass. His tummy hurt. Ay, ay, ay. 1 minute Ben equals 10 minutes Bello. How? Well, we're 6 minutes in. We're 6 minutes in. We'll get there. IDK if the context matters for rape and kill for Nick clip. That one is tough to defend, even if it was just crude comedy. I personally don't care, but it's tough. It is tough to defend. I don't think it's too tough to defend. It's crude comedy. It's it's bad optics, of course. But it's like, look, people have made all kinds of jokes on the internet. It's kind of like and it was not a specific like call to violence. So yeah, I mean, maybe better not to have done that in the first place. That's why Nick doesn't do it anymore. Yeah, I mean that's if I had to guess, I'm not putting words in Nick's mouth, but that's probably one of his regrets. You know, the arcadey stuff may be one of his regrets, but at the same time, that kind of polemical humor is what allowed him to like slice through the censorship. Those kinds of outrageous things, because I guess you can make the same argument about a lot of the jokes that Nick has said, but I think people forget like the kind of situation we were in. Even just 3 years ago, the censorship was so bad that you kind of had to bait the media, even leftist organizations like Right Wing Watch to clip your show for you and then post it on platforms where Nick is banned. So it was a different time, and so the strategy I think was different than where we are now. Is this live? Yeah, this is live. It's not like the next day Goipers raped and murdered a bunch of people. Yeah, 100%, dude. If you think for a second the feds wouldn't jump at the opportunity to go after Nick and the Goipers, if any Goiper did anything like, for example, what Tyler Robinson did, imagine the world of shit we would be in right now. They're like looking for it. They're combing through the internet, through all of society to find some like right-wing nutjob Goiper that they can influence, or that they can honeypot in some kind of way. 100%. So, no, man, it's like, most Goipers are just, they're good guys. Most Goipers are Catholic. Like, you look at these group chats, they're talking about like going to mass, talking about praying the rosary. So not exactly these hateful, evil, bigoted people that the media makes all the Goipers out to be. So, but I guess comedy is dead. I guess comedy is dead, right? Well, didn't they say that like comedy? The left canceled comedy. What happened to that, Ben Shapiro? Ben, what happened to comedy? Come on, it's comedy. You made Lady Ballers. You know comedy. It's just jokes. The 6 million cookies? We're talking about cookies. Why are you so offended? It's just jokes. Jeez Louise, talk about a snowflake. Can't even joke about baking cookies. What's his fucking problem, man? You didn't read your Anderson comment? Shit, Repeat it. I don't know. I missed it. I'm missing stuff. Who do we think is going to win this battle? The establishment, GOP, or America First? Do we really think this movement won't get crushed? Feds like Tucker are already attaching themselves to Nick. Oh, I think America First is inevitable, unironically, because of the contradiction. Here's the thing about Tucker. I think Tucker is an opportunist. And if the establishment were winning, then none of this would have been necessary. If the establishment were winning, then Nick would still be censored. He'd still be canceled. He wouldn't be on a generational run. Tucker never would have. None of these people would be even saying Nick Fuentes if the GOP establishment were winning. Now, right now, they have the heart, like a lot of the resources. They have the power. They have the institutions. But that's changing. That will change as people become more and more red-pilled and infiltrate those institutions. It's already happened. And so the mere fact that like they have to address this indicates that they are losing ground. They are losing control of the narrative. So, and somebody like Tucker, don't think for a second that Nick trusts Tucker, or that like he will let Tucker influence him. Nick is way too smart to let that happen. And I think that's the strategy. I think Tucker realized that his attack on Nick didn't go the way that he planned. It blew up in his fucking face. He took a major hit to his credibility, and Candace's too, for that matter. And this is the new strategy. Now they're going to smother him. They're going to try to smother him with kindness and affection to try and win him over. Now they're going to shower Nick with acclaim to try to influence him. Try to yes man him and direct him that way. The attacks didn't work. The cancellation didn't work. Ignoring him didn't work. Now they have to address him. Let's try to buddy up with him and win him over. Now we're going to make him feel vindicated. See if we can influence him in that way. And I really doubt it's going to work. I seriously doubt that's going to work. I mean, just look at and like gut level. Just look at the way Nick talks to people who give him fucking money on a nightly basis. You think glaze works on him like that? You think you can just glaze him a little bit and he's going to chum up to you? That you're going to influence him like? I don't think so. He shit on like $2,000 super chats before, okay? So, and he's been stabbed in the back so many times. And he said this, so I'm not saying anything that I'm not reading into this. He said like he really doesn't trust anyone. You know, he said that he's kind of a paranoid person in that regard, especially in the sense that like people are literally trying to kill him. But also just because of the number of times that, the number of fair weather friends that he's gone through that have stabbed him in the back. So. I don't see your innocent comment, refresh your chat. 100% Ben has America First Plus subscription. Yeah, there's probably he probably has some intern or something. Anderson Pooper is more bottoms up. Very good, M-Goat. Very, very, very good play on words. Very, very good. They don't have the people though. Wait, what are we talking about now? Who doesn't? Streamer, you like the goon? Okay, you're not nice, you kumquat. Nick listens to good advice like Tucker's. This is why we have super chats. Yeah. It's just look. I think he's experienced that before. He's tried to be handled before, and it hasn't worked. So, in a certain sense, there will come a time where, if people like Tucker want to still be in the conversation, he's just gonna have to play ball. And that's leverage. He's going to have to address these problems. He's going to have to be on sides. And how genuine somebody is or isn't, it's like, in a very certain sense, it doesn't matter if they could be instrumentalized for our purposes. It's like, do you think all these $7,000, Shabbos Goy, all these influencers, you think they're really ideologically aligned with Israel? Some are, but if you think all of them are, no. They're getting fucking paid to be pro-Israel. And I don't necessarily think we have to be like that superficial. I think we have enough diehard believers. We don't have to pay people to spread the message disingenuously. But the point is, it's like, yeah, they're not thinking in like these terms. They want people to do like the way that the Jewish fifth column is thinking is like, they don't necessarily, they just want specific outcomes more or less. They want people to be pro-Israel. How you get there, they're not necessarily as concerned about that. So like whether people are like, you know, whether the people they pay are true believers or not, they just want them to fall in line. Anyway. Too much commentary. Well, why are you here? Why are you here? You can go watch the video. Wow, Ben Shapiro has 7.2 million subs. Real. Yeah, the dude is... Just quick note.
7
quick
million.
Note here. Look at his viewership, dude. You know, occasionally he has something a little more relevant. But for 7 million views? And these are his daily shows, right? Not great. Not great. He's probably what, maybe after Walsh, the most popular guy at the Daily Wire. All right, anyway.
And a Holocaust denier.
Like every time you say play the video, I'm adding another fucking minute of commentary. Every time you guys complain, that's another minute of commentary.
Buddy, it's Führer Friday. It is Hitler Friday. Shut up. It is Heil Hitler Friday, nigga. Heil Hitler, all my niggas Nazis.
Hitler was a pedophile and kind of a pagan.
Okay, all right, come
it's
on.
like,
All
well,
right.
he was also really fucking cool. So, you know, time to grow up. We're not children anymore. Am I right? Am I right? Am I right, boys?
So
Am
true.
I right? Let's go. He was also really fucking cool. It doesn't really sound correct to me. Wait a second. It takes 1 hour to cook a batch of cookies, and you have 15 ovens,
Yeah.
probably in 4 different kitchens, right? Doing 24 hours a day, every day for 5 years. How long would it take you to make 6 million? I don't know. It certainly wouldn't be 5 years, right? The math doesn't seem to add up there. The math doesn't quite seem to add up there. I don't think you'd result in 6 million. Maybe 200 to 300,000 cookies. And I think the Red Cookie Association said something like that, probably 200 to 300,000 cookies baked, probably. And in addition, you know, in this hypothetical, I imagine that if you took aerial photographs over the kitchens, you would need to see certain smokestacks to release the smoke from baking the cookies, and the smokestacks would project certain shadows, but I guess they're not visible in the aerial photographs taken over the kitchens. Moreover, if you look at the soil texture, it's really not deep enough for mass cookie storage underground.
Nick Fuentes believes that the Jews start all the wars, that
true.
perfidious Jews in positions of power ought to be killed, and says the Jews are filth who have to be removed from.
I wonder how many people are going to be inadvertently red-pilled by that. I wonder how many people are going to be inadvertently red-pilled by Ben Shapiro playing this clip that's trying to like persuade people that Nick is a Holocaust denier, and they're going to be like, wait, there were no smokestacks? They had no aerial evidence of smokestacks for a cookie oven? That's crazy.
From the country.
And once again, remember who is responsible for it all. The Jews. They are responsible for every war in the world. It's not even debatable at this point. This has nothing to do with oil. This has nothing to do with democracy. This has nothing to do with liberal internationalism. We are at war with Iran because they pose a threat to Israel's hegemony. That's why we're bombing their nukes, to pave the way for regime change so Israel can dominate the region, because that makes them the most powerful they can be.
There is an occult element at the high levels of society, and specifically among the Jews. So many of the people that are perpetrating the lies and the destruction on the country
they are evildoers. They are people that worship false gods. They are people that practice magic or rituals or whatever. And more than anything, those people need to be, when we take power, they need to be given the death penalty. Straight up. And I'm far more concerned about that than I am about even non-white people or mass migration.
New York Times, well, let's finish this clip.
These people that are communing with demons and engaging in this sort of witchcraft and stuff, and these people that are suppressing the name Christ and suppressing Christianity, they must be absolutely annihilated when we take power. This is God's country. This is Jesus's country. This is not the domain of atheists or devil worshippers or perfidious Jews. This is Christ's country.
Again, like how many people in Ben's audience are gonna get red pilled by this? Jewish occultism, what's that? Looks up the Kabbalah. How many, like, seriously, what the fuck is he doing? What is Ben doing? Just playing all of Nick's, like, biggest red pill, saying, look at how ridiculous this is. Okay, but you haven't disproven anything. New York Times estimates that anywhere between 30 to 40% of DC Republican staffers under the age of 30 are followers of Nick Fuentes. Based. Very based. Is that a new article that came out? A new study? New estimate? Yeah, the boomer skinhead, yeah. The revolutionary change is supporting Nick, yeah. When things are changing, like, what an exciting time to be alive. This is maybe, not to be dramatic, but this might be the most important time in human history. I think outside of the resurrection, outside the lifetime of Christ, of course. We're really at an inflection point. It's crazy to think about. A new article dropped today. I saw one. I heard about one in Axios. I was going to read it off stream. But yeah, I think, yeah, Nick did a thing on Axios, I believe. One of Malcolm Collins' Tornado's channel are supporting Nick W. Dude, it's going mainstream. It is mainstream. Nick is mainstream. It's fucking crazy to see. It's awesome.
Josh Hammer and Mark Levin. Fuck these people.
W.
Like, deeply, seriously. All real Americans, if you are a real American, if you were born in this country, I don't even care who you are, what you are. If you are a real American that loves this country, you have generations in this country, your family or you fought for this flag, fought for the Constitution, fought for our church, fought for our civilization. For all of you, I say about Josh Hammer and Mark Levin and Laura Loomer, fuck them. Fuck them. Yeah. Deeply, seriously, get them the fuck out of our country.
So true.
Nick Fuentes, it should be mentioned, despises Donald Trump and the MAGA movement as well.
Fuck you. Fuck you. You suck. You are fat. You are a joke. You are stupid. You are not funny. You are not as smart as you think you are. You are, and honestly, and if you watch my show, you know I've been very critical. I've never been this far. This just goes to show this entire thing has been a scam. When we look back on the history of populism in America, we are going to look back on the MAGA movement as the biggest scam in American history.
True.
And the liberals were right. The MAGA supporters were had. They were.
So true.
That right there is just a brief glimpse into the twisted mind of Nick Fuentes. And
bro, is this just me gonna be throughout the 40-minute video responding to Nick saying, so true, King? You got the info from Rerum? I haven't checked Rerum today. So, yeah, that must be brand spanking new. Ben forgot to do the part where you edit out the context. He kind of did with that one, but yeah, it's just like, this is just like fetching. This is just like emotional. Where are the counter arguments? It's just like name calling, emotional manipulation. Look how evil and rotten this guy is. It's like, I don't see it. Where's the argument? Where's your evidence? Where's your case? Okay, it's, you know what I'm saying? Debate the facts. Aren't you the guy with facts and logic? Debate the facts and bring the logic. Right now, I'm seeing a lot of emotional appeals. I thought facts don't care about your feelings, Ben. Why don't you debate Nick? Why don't you rebut his arguments?
Plenty more where that came from, of course. Hours of it per day, in fact.
Can't emotion. Oh,
and there's no doubt that Nick Fuentes has a lot of play these days.
Yeah.
That's because the left, by moving into a politics of anti-white, anti-Christian, anti-male identitarianism, created its bizarro mirror image, a white pseudo-Christian incel identitarian movement dedicated to destroying the institutions of this country and replacing Americanism with something else.
Actually, you and Mark Levin did that, actually. Literally. You created this. You created this problem for yourself, Ben. You're the one that canceled Nick. Isn't that funny? You reap what you sow.
Nick Fuentes' philosophy is not fully formed. It's an incoherent stew of malignity. But that's where Tucker Carlson enters the story. Now, since his exit from Fox News in 2023, when, of course, he was a very, very popular host, Tucker Carlson has turned himself into a conspiracist and a crank and a pathological liar. Tucker excuses Vladimir Putin's murderous and barbarous reign. He has even become one of his most ardent defenders.
It is so much nicer than any city in my country. I had no idea. My father spent a lot of time there in the 80s when he worked for the US government and barely had electricity. And now it is so much cleaner and safer and prettier aesthetically. It's architecture, it's food, it's service than any country, city in the United States that you have to, and this is non-ideological. How did that happen? How did that happen? And at a certain point, I don't think the average person cares as much about abstractions as about the concrete reality of his life. And if you can't use your subway, for example, as many people are afraid to in New York City because it's too dangerous, you have to sort of wonder, like, isn't that the ultimate measure of leadership? And that's true, by the way, it's radicalizing for an American to go to Moscow, I didn't know that, I've learned it this week, to Singapore, to Tokyo, to Dubai and Abu Dhabi. Because these cities, no matter how we're told they're run and on what principles they're run, are wonderful places to live.
So I guess you put in 10 rubles here, and you get it back when you put the cart back. So it's free, but there's an incentive to return it and not just bring it to your homeless encampment. I went from amused to legitimately angry. So we were guessing what this would cost. Everybody here is from the United States, buys groceries, and we didn't pay any attention to costs as we were just putting in the cart what we would actually eat over a week. And we all came in around $400, about $400. It was $104 US here. And that's when you start to realize that ideology maybe doesn't matter as much as you thought, corruption. If you take people's standard of living and you tank it through filth and crime and inflation, and they literally can't buy the groceries they want, at that point, maybe it matters less what you say or whether you're a good person or a bad person. You're wrecking people's lives in their country, and that's what our leaders have done to us.
Yeah, you think people are radicalized now? You think they're radical now? Like, just wait. Just like if things keep going the way that they've been going, the way that they're projected to go, dude, we're in for some hard times. And I don't say that glibly, but it's true. You know, there has to be an impetus really for people to change their opinion. If it if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? Moscow doesn't have St. George Floyd on in EBT. Yeah, that is true. And I'm not like, oh yeah, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Let me do my shilling real quick. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the bell for notifications and whatnot. Anyway, what was I saying? Damn it. I just lost my whatever, dude, whatever.
When Tucker Carlson interviewed Vladimir Putin, by the way, Vladimir Putin was so amused by Tucker Carlson's easy questioning that he actually mocked him. Tucker Carlson has massaged the Iranian dictatorship and admitted to not asking any difficult questions of the president of that dictatorship.
The interview is limited by a couple of factors. One, it was done by
Tucker sweating? What's going on with his nose?
remote through a translator. That's always awkward. For another, I don't speak Persian. And there are all kinds of questions that I didn't ask the president of Iran, particularly questions to which I knew I could not get an honest answer, such as, Was your nuclear program totally disabled by the bombing campaign by the U.S. government a week and a half ago? There's no chance he's going to answer that question honestly.
TBH is smart of Ben to lump Tucker and Fuentes together as an attack plan. If I were more conspiratorial, I would think this was part of the plan all along. I do think there's some truth to that. Yo, what's up, SSB? How's it going, dog? I actually do think there's some truth to that, because look at how, first of all, Nick is the one that went after Tucker over the summer after the attempted hit piece against Nick. When Tucker and Candace, and Nick has been critical of Tucker. This goes back to when Tucker conspired with the Gray Zone to write that hit piece on Nick. And Michelle Malkin tipped Nick off to that because she got a call from Tucker asking about Nick. That was a few years ago. And so Nick has been critical of Tucker. He was really the one to expose Tucker's CIA connections. And so Tucker is very likely in some capacity affiliated with the feds. And so now that they're on, a more positive and friendly terms, some people are saying, "Oh, you sold out. You know," and that was a big thing with like the Tyler Robinson thing. Charlie Kirk. When everyone jumped to conclusions based on a lack of evidence, really conjecture that Israel killed Charlie Kirk, which, I don't rule out. It's possible. But you need enough supporting evidence to really make that claim. And when Nick said the same thing, people said, "Oh, you sold out to Israel." It's like, what are you talking about? Like, many people that were not even red pilled on Israel until October 7th. People that got red pilled yesterday. So yeah, I do think that there is an angle that they're trying to attack Nick. And they've been doing this for a long time, of just a Fed jacketing. Claiming that Nick is a Fed. And now that Nick called Tucker a Fed and now they're on friendlier terms, a lot of people are attacking Nick for that. But it's I don't think those people really understand politics. Sorry, but again, it's the whole Nick is a Fed thing is just I just find that so ridiculous. Seriously, how many feds get bankrupted and are censored everywhere? Don't you think it would be something more along the lines of I don't know, a Tucker Carlson or even a Tommy, was it Tommy Robinson in the UK, for example? Just an obvious kind of provocateur, polemicist. If anything, Nick has been a disruptive force for the establishment, for the federal government, for the current regime. So it doesn't, just based on that fact alone, it's how exactly did the feds benefit from a Nick Fuentes? I don't see it. So anyway, so I do think that there is that is an attack vector that I have seen that they're taking right now against Nick. Kind of smothering him with Tucker, or attaching him at the hip with Tucker. Because everybody's pointing at people calling them feds, and some people are feds, but again, you need evidence. You can't just call somebody a Fed. Okay, it's the same thing. Like if you make any kind of claim, you need to back that up. It's not rocket science. Hope you all are working. What's up, Augustus? Hope you all are working out, losing weight, training, acquiring skills and resources, whatever you can do to prepare for whatever happens next. Yeah, hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. You never know, man. I pray nothing bad happens, but you gotta be hard to kill, and you gotta be the best you can be. It's not David Duke embracing Tucker, it's Tucker embracing Nick to neutralize him. Yeah, it could be that. And, again, attaching the hip. And that's one of the reasons why Nick didn't really want to collab with David Duke, because he didn't want that baggage. That's yeah, I mean, it's just not a good idea to really be affiliated with somebody in the Knights who was in the Knights of the Ku Klux Klan. I mean, that's, come on, that's 101 stuff. How can Nick be both an incel and gay? Yeah, he's it's just a never-ending attack, a never-ending barrage of accusations. He's a gay Mexican incel Fed. He's paid by Israel, but he's also their biggest detractor. It's what do you dude? Yeah, I mean, they're trying so hard, but not working, man. I really hope this isn't the peak. He can't rest on his laurels now. Oh, I don't think it is at all, man. based on the stuff that I've seen, and even just the stuff that Nick has said, he's got friends in high places, and he's influencing a whole generation of young men, and not even just below 30. There are like millennials, boomers, Gen Xers that are listening to Nick. And so, like, the infiltration, it's already happened. And Nick has said that his show is not the end goal. His end goal is to win. His end goal is to save America, more or less, in the white race and put Christ first. It's literally in the mission statement of America First. And to conduct this political revolution. So it's much bigger than just a talk show.
I didn't bother to ask it. The answer, in fact, from an American perspective, even from the CIA's perspective, is unknowable.
Tucker bizarrely worships at the altar of Qatar.
They're mad at you because you don't put your parents in some institution.
I want to talk about this real quick. I think it's imminent at this point with the trajectory the left is going and the neocon Israel first crowd. They're not just going to let go of power willingly. Yeah, they never were. They never were going to, like, and what we're seeing right now is them retaliating. The Jewish Republican Congress, Ben Shapiro, this is a retaliation of sorts. And they're going to put greater pressure on Trump and his administration to do something about this. They are going to redouble their efforts to purge the GOP of anyone even remotely sympathetic to these ideas. I hope that they don't do something more drastic than that. I hope we don't see like a false flag or something. And because that's not a guarantee, right? People assume it will happen. It's likely. It's a distinct likelihood, I think. It's probable based on their track record, based on their ideology, etc., that they would conduct a false flag. They've done it before on American soil. But it's all contingent. It's all contingent on the circumstances. It's like, why stick your neck out in such a way if you don't have to? Like, they would prefer not to talk about Nick, for example, but they have to. So by that same logic, they would prefer not to conduct a false flag. But let's hope that they don't feel like they have to. And so, yeah, it's dicey because they're clearly losing control of the narrative. Nobody's buying this shit anymore. The comment section is all hostile towards them and positive towards America First. Like, what do they do? Like, they're losing this front of their war. They're losing the 8th front, Israel's 8th front. They're losing right now. And they're on a limited timetable. So, very scary, very scary. And above now, like, literally no Fed posting. I know that's like always been said, but seriously, like, do not joke about that shit at all. Times have changed. It's not like 2019 anymore, being edgy and whatever. Like, it's serious. This is serious. You know, they tried to kill President Trump. They killed Charlie Kirk. And that's just presumably from the left. So the temperature is really high right now. Just don't fuck up. Don't do that. Like, let's just be serious. Let's lock in. Anyway.
Maybe they're trying to break up your families.
Well, it can be a reason. Honestly, I don't know what is really the purpose behind this, but we see that, you know, a lot of things that are happening are attacks on humanity in general. It's when you lose the family value, when you lose the connection between the family themselves, you will lose the connection between the people as well, on a broader level, on the people in the same neighborhood, on the people in the same region, in the same countries. And that's basically will just make us, you know, as individuals who are, quote unquote, independent from anyone. That's what we will feel. Yet,
Tucker is just a booster rocket. Nick will cast him off when needed. Yeah, right now Tucker's useful. Right now Tucker is useful for the movement, so to speak. And think about, like, a lot of people are like, why did you go easy on Tucker? It's like, look at the optics. Look at what that interview has forced. Look at how the dialectic has changed. You want to talk about unity? You want to talk about, like, creating unity? That interview created a lot of unity. And it's like redrawing the battle lines. We're unifying against against the Israel First crowd. So, Dave Smith loves him. Yeah. Yeah, no end trees. Yeah, no more end towers, none of that stuff. Let's clean it up. I mean, look, I don't know, within reason, right? Just optics. I know that's not the fun thing to say. I know we all want to have like edgy jokes and shit, but we got to keep our eyes on the prize. Like, what's more important, winning, being effective, or like telling jokes to people that are already on sides for the millionth time, you know? They knew this would happen. They couldn't let Charlie talk to Nick. Yeah, I mean, I certainly see that angle, because based on the leaked messages, which were verified by Andrew Colvett, and I was a little skeptical of them at first, but it seems like they're legit. It does seem like Charlie was frustrated with his Jewish donors. And he was talking about inviting Tucker and Candace. That they're leaving me no choice. At that point, like, it follows it probably would have been an inevitability. Because say what you will, like, Charlie at the end of the day has a business to run. And if his donors are pulling out, he makes more money than just one $2 million donation. But if his donors are starting to pull away and turn against him, it kind of, politically speaking, leaves him no choice but to adopt a new donor base, find a new support network to keep his operation afloat. That's kind of the game of politics. So I think inevitably they probably would have had a conversation. And maybe Charlie would have taken a more maybe ambivalent stance on Israel at the very least. Who knows? Hard to say. It's all speculation. But yeah, I don't necessarily think that means that Israel killed him, but you know, I think that's a real possibility. You know, they had the motive and the means and the opportunity. But at the same time, like, Charlie was still their top guy. You know, why take out? And I don't even like talking about this in this because I don't want people to read into this. But why take out Charlie and not Tucker? And maybe, and this is just, I'm spitballing here. This is all speculation. Maybe they viewed TPUSA as a big problem. They wanted to martyr Charlie and his viewpoints now than what they could become. And they knew TPUSA, that all the young people were Groypers anyway. It was already kind of a vessel to deliver like Groypers into positions of power in politics. So maybe they thought it was better to cut their losses then. Maybe that's the angle. But I don't think that's enough to definitively say that they killed him. I think it's a possibility, but I think as of right now, the sort of lone left-wing nut job, just based on the overwhelming evidence, the overwhelming support that people have had for Tyler Robinson, like for the killing of Charlie Kirk, the celebration, I think people often forget that there are a lot of like left-wing nut jobs out there that literally want us dead. So I think that's still the more likely explanation as of right now. But who knows? That whole thing is, I think, yeah, people have jumped to all kinds of conclusions about that, and I think that's not good.
Just make our societies vulnerable and easy to be penetrated.
That's right.
Tucker Carlson praises Venezuela's Nicolas Maduro, even as Maduro keeps the entire country in communist penury and ships fentanyl into the United States to kill Americans by the hundreds of thousands.
Why are we so opposed to Nicolas Maduro? So if you ask someone on the street, random person, why are we against Nicolas Maduro? The answer you're going to get is, who's Nicolas Maduro? But if you find someone in South Florida, for example, who knows who Nicolas Maduro is, who can identify where Venezuela is on a map, that person will almost certainly say, well, because he's a communist or a socialist, he's exceedingly left-wing, and that is true. Nicolas Maduro and his government are very left-wing on economics, not on social policy, by the way, which is kind of interesting. In Venezuela, gay marriage is banned, abortion is banned, sex changes for transgenderism are banned. It's one of the very few countries in the entire hemisphere with those policies. It is on social policy, not defending the regime, just saying, one of the most conservative countries in North or South or Central America. Only El Salvador really comes close.
That's not really the real reason. Like, yes, they want countries to ideologically or culturally be more aligned with America. Yeah, they want global homo to be a thing. But the real reason why is because Venezuela has taken tons of money from China. They took like a $50 billion loan from Chinese banks, a huge investment into Venezuelan infrastructure. They're buying equipment and receiving training from both Iran and Russia, and these are our enemies. These are our literal adversaries. At least the way that Washington looks at it, certainly, doubly so. So we and I know this is not new to anybody here, but it's just great power politics, and specifically here, the Monroe Doctrine. We can't have China in our backyard like that, influencing Latin America that we have every interest in owning. That's the real reason. You know, the narco stuff, the conflict of culture, that's all tertiary as far as the regime is controlled, as far as what the motivations of the regime are. So, and I don't necessarily I actually, in this parochial sense, I do agree with the regime. We should own. I want to own the world, right? I want America to be as powerful as possible, obviously with the caveat that it's not the current people in power. Like, some things need to change before I think that would be a good thing. But as an American, why would you not want to put America first and for America to be as powerful as possible? Because that's clearly in the interests of America and the American people. And there's such a way where it can be also in the interests of other people. For example, let's say America truly was a Christian country. Who would be a more benevolent dictator, America or China? Now, I know there's a lot of heat on China. We have a lot of propaganda against China, but look, a lot of it's true. China is a very amoral society. They have the sweatshops. What are human rights in China? Very different society, but clearly, when you talk about morality, I think Christendom, a Christian society, which I think would really, unless something changes, would only be possible here in the West, in America, not in China. Like a Christian empire would be far more beneficial to the rest of the world than a Chinese one. And so there's a very real world where, and this is the goal, we regain sovereignty over America, right? And then we can build our country up again, and we can act in a moral way. You know, we're not, and I know maybe it's hard for people to understand that, but, you know, I believe in empires because empires exist. You can't will them away. Empires are real. Every country would like to be an empire if they could, but most of them lack the means to do so. So they cut off the money and he cries. They're leaving him no choice. Sweetie threw out of the limo. Charlie was slow taking the hint. Yeah, look, they were calling their top guy an anti-Semite. Think about that for a second. Because if Charlie started to change his mind, all the young men would start to follow. Young men follow those who show them respect, and Charlie was that. I think it's somewhat different. I think Charlie was losing relevance with the young men. The young men are following Nick. You know, the young men following Nick. Charlie, not so much anymore, I think. I think times have changed. And so I think he was certainly starting to feel the pressure. Because and you hear rumors about this all the time. All of the TPUSA people, like the college TPUSA, they're all groypers, man. They're all groypers. They're all talking about this behind the scenes. Some overtly. Then oil is low grade, only China, U.S. refineries to process it. It's about influence. China, Russia are being pushed out. Yeah, they have a ton of oil, but it's all low grade crude oil. They have the biggest reserves, I believe, in the world, but their manufacturing is very small. They're I forgot the exact number, but they're dozens down in the rankings from number one in terms of actual production. So they have a lot there, a lot in reserve, but they're not manufacturing a lot. So it's not a matter of per se about high quality oil production. But that oil is still valuable. Don't get me wrong. I actually wonder who the Gen Z GOP are. You never see them. You see them, but a lot of them are low key because they understand the score. Because if you don't understand the score, you get kicked out. If you're out there and you're gonna be too based in public, you're gonna get kicked out. So the ones that are still there kind of understand how to keep a lid on that shit, and they're more based than they let on.
Tucker Carlson glosses Hamas, the genocidal jihadi group behind October 7th, as a political organization.
you can't claim that they're in Hamas while simultaneously claiming that Hamas is a group of jihadis. They're Islamic extremists, which they also claim constantly, which I don't know if that's true, by the way. It seems more like a political organization, but whatever it is, they're telling us constantly they're Al-Qaeda.
Tucker Carlson has attacked President Trump as a cover-up artist for sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein on behalf of Israel and Mossad, making sure, of course, never to mention President Trump's name, because, of course, Tucker's a coward.
And moreover, it's extremely obvious to anyone who watches that this guy had direct connections to a foreign government. Now, no one's allowed to say that that foreign government is Israel because we have been somehow cowed into
Look at how people are cheering,
thinking that
dude.
that's
At
naughty.
TPUSA.
There is nothing wrong with saying that. There is nothing hateful about saying that.
That's how you know, man. Like, the people are on our side. The people have woken up. It's so over for you, Ben. It's so over. You're cooked. You're done. Your Jewish tricks have no power here anymore, Ben. You hear about when they get kicked out. Trump has a staffer that tracks them down and fires them. Yeah, I mean, look, Gavin Wax, that whole debacle is the most recent example. So you gotta be careful.
Tucker Carlson has stated that President Trump has undermined America First and MAGA by attacking Iran, giving in to neocon ghouls like Mark Levin, while also idiotically arguing that President Trump striking Iran's nuclear facilities would lead to World War III. Spoiler alert, it didn't. Tucker Carlson also said in his interview with Nick Fuentes that the people he hates most in the entire world, more than ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Trans-Tifa, Marxists, rapists, murderers, are Christian Zionists who represent an enormous chunk of the conservative base. According to Tucker Carlson, who admits that he first read the Bible all the way through just 2 years ago, Christians who support a Jewish state of Israel are heretics and blasphemers with a brain virus.
How do you explain Mike Huckabee, Ted Cruz, and there are a lot like that, John Bolton. I mean, I've known them all, George W. Bush, like Karl Rove. I mean, all people I know personally who I've seen be seized by this brain virus, and they're not Jewish. Most of them are self-described Christians, and then the Christian Zionists who are, Christian Zionists. Like, what is that?
Right.
And I could just say for myself, I dislike them more than anybody. Because what? Because it's Christian heresy, and I'm offended by that as a Christian.
Tucker Carlson has said,
clearly that's that's hyperbolic. I mean, if you were to really sit Tucker down and say, so do you hate Christian Zionists more than you hate a jihadi serial rapist murderer or whatever? You know what I'm saying? I think clearly that was hyperbolic. Ben.
Said that he despises American Jews who care about October 7th. We, in his words, don't care about America and also want to get his kids killed in a foreign war.
I've got 4 draft-age children. So if you're playing recklessly fast and loose with their lives, then I have a right to despise you, and I do. So if you're Nikki Haley, who's running for president, or Ben Shapiro, or half the people I see on television casually mentioning the possibility of nuclear war or sending Americans to fight in the Middle East, or in any way involving us in a war that has nothing to do with prosperity and peace at home, nothing, in other words, to do with us, Americans, then I have a right to call you out and be really offended because it's my family. They live here. It's not a joke to me. There's nothing abstract about it.
But
I love the way Ben framed that. He framed it as just people who care about October 7th. As if that's what Tucker was really criticizing. As if that's who Tucker was criticizing. Just the people who care about October 7th. Let's just go back and listen to that again.
Christian.
Tucker Carlson has said that he despises American Jews who care about October 7th.
Really? I think he was being a lot more specific than that. That clip, he was talking about the people who were like Nikki Haley and these other, what would you say, ardent Zionists or extremists or neocons that were calling for nuking Iran. Where's Ben getting just that Tucker was critical of just people who care about October 7th? He hates Jews that care about October 7th. That's literally just not true. how did that's just so disingenuous. That's just a straight up lie. You literally in the clip can hear Tucker define exactly who he was critical of. Unless, are you saying that every Jew is in favor of that? Is that what you're saying? If every Jew is in favor, that's a pretty big generalization. But if that's what Ben Shapiro was saying, that every Jew is in favor of nuking Iran, that's kind of a big problem in and of itself, don't you think? For the reasons that Tucker just outlined, that it's not, because it's not in our interests, and it's quite a destructive, horrible affair in and of itself. Like, seriously, dude, he's just lying. I mean, as if we didn't know that already, but he's just lying to people's faces like this. Lying just so brazen, so out in the open. Literally. It's insane. When was the last time Ben read the Bible all the way through? I doubt I don't know. Who knows? He doesn't care about the Bible. I think he meant sympathize with the non-hostile Jews, but Ben really overdoes it with the gaslighting. That's what gets me. I'm not dumb. Yeah, don't get me wrong, man. I don't condemn all the Jews. Like, obviously. I don't hate everybody. I don't condemn an entire group of people. I feel like that goes without saying, but I guess it's worth repeating. Like, yeah, there are obviously cool Jews out there. I know them. I know many of them. It's like, that's not really the crux of the problem. This is not an individualist problem. It's more of a collective one. It's bigger than like any individual Jew. So this is not a condemnation of every single Jew, period, just because they're Jewish. That is stupid, but they keep framing our arguments like that. They just hate Jews because they're irrational haters. That's just not the case at all. Like, first of all, it's not a hatred of Jews. It's not a hatred at all. It's a criticism of the Jewish collective cabal and the problems it's causing us, how it's been very bad for us. It's been hostile. It's been an enormous liability for America to support Israel. And it's destroying, quite literally, the fabric of our country through things like mass migration that are promoted by many of these Jewish groups. At the very least, they're indifferent to that. Ben Shapiro said he doesn't give a damn about the browning of America. Well, what about people like me? What about all the millions of white people who lived here? Don't they have a say? Doesn't their opinion matter? The white people that built this country, that were the majority, still are the majority, but less so. Their opinion doesn't matter. If they engage in identity politics, that's evil, that's wrong, that's like the left. But Ben Shapiro does this shit all day long. That's what he's fucking doing right here. It's just so brazenly obvious. And it's like, once you see it, man, it's like you can't unsee it. It's the cat's out the bag. The jig is up. Everybody sees the man behind the curtain. It's over. He's cooked. Nobody takes this guy seriously, and now it's at the point where they're being let out. They're not being let into the conversation. They're not. They're like, they decided for a long time they weren't going to let people like Nick into the conversation. And now that Nick has become mainstream, and they're still trying to keep him out, now you're starting to see America Firsters, whether it's Nick or maybe Tucker, jury's still out. We're all starting to talk amongst ourselves. Okay? And if frankly, if people like Ben want to have a say, they need to show a little bit more humility. They need to be a little more magnanimous with their approach. And rather than just like name calling their opponents, people of whom they disagree with, like the most evil people on the planet, maybe you should hear them out. Maybe white people have legitimate grievances. But they have no desire to work with us. They have no desire to work with Nick, no desire whatsoever. They're uncompromising. And so eventually, look, things keep going the way that they're going, like they will not have a seat at the table. And that's because they created the conditions for that. They've been refusing to have a seat at that table for years. They tried to control the table. And now the table is being redefined, and still, maybe you would hope that this would have a moment of they would have a moment of self-awareness and realize this strategy is not working out for them, and they would, maybe think that reevaluate themselves and their strategy. But that's just not happening, dude. They just keep doubling down. They don't know when to stop. Like, seriously, man. And so obviously, best case scenario, Best case scenario, Nick wins. Like, and I don't think that somebody like Ben Shapiro understands that for himself or for other Jews in America. Best case scenario for Jews is Nick wins. Because, and I've said this before, many people have said this before, and it doesn't take much of an imagination to figure this out, but there are people far more radical and actually, in some cases, actually hateful than Nick. And Nick, interestingly, now is a gatekeeper. Nick is now gatekeeping the movement from more radical voices in the way that Charlie gatekept right-wing politics from Nick. Nick is now the new gatekeeper in the right-wing political movement. Seriously, why do you think Tucker felt compelled to do an interview now of all times? Because he knew if he didn't in the future, it'd be very difficult to have his voice taken seriously. And this trend, I think, will only continue. And so, believe it or not, Nick is and has been gatekeeping people more radical, actually hateful, saying stuff like TND and whatnot. And I don't think that these people truly understand that. And so, like frankly, for their own sake, for all of our sakes, I would hope that these people would see reason and would be willing to have a conversation so that we can find some kind of amicable agreement. Some kind of common understanding. That's like always been the goal, is we find a way. Like, is that not, do we not want to find a way to lower the temperature, get along, because it's our home? Who wants to fight in their own home? But a lot of these people, a lot of these Jews don't consider America their home. Anyway. Who thinks Rupert Murdoch really fired Tucker Carlson, or was Tucker reassigned to wrangle the far right? I don't know, but he serves a purpose right now. He's useful. So I hate that we're having to defend Tucker Carlson again. I think he's always controlled opposition. That's what he said. Tucker only read the Bible all the way through. Only read the Bible all the way through last year. Yeah, I mean, look, like I said, I think I've obviously had my suspicions of Tucker. Like, I don't trust him. I think it's best to keep him at arm's length. But right now, there's an opportunity here. By and that's politics, man. That's like, you think, like, if you go to the Hill, you're not going to trust anybody. It's all about opportunity. It's all about coalition building. It's all about a give and a take. And so right now, Tucker serves a purpose. Right now, he is useful. So keep that in mind. That doesn't mean like he's a groyper. That doesn't mean that we should listen to him, especially when it contradicts, Nick's vision or America First vision. But right now he's useful, because look at what that interview what that's manifested. Look at the response. It's been scrumptious. And it's like people like Ben have to come out and stick their neck out and force the contradiction because of this new development. That has a lot of utility, a lot of value. So you don't have to love Tucker, but you recognize that this was mutually beneficial for the two of them, for Nick and Tucker. And I think overall good for America First. So I think that's the best way to look at it. Yeah. Ben would rather go to a fractured party that loses all the time than have a full America First winning party. Yeah, Ben is not America First, that's why. He only cares about the GOP or America in general insofar as it's a vessel to help Israel. That's literally it. He does not give a shit about America. That's why he won't declare himself America First. That's why the Republicans are known for grabbing defeat from the jaws of victory. Yeah, I mean, they are controlled op. Did I see Mark Levin at the RJC? I did. It was hilarious, dude. He's like, the kvetching is off the charts. And they both low-key do understand, but they really are just gaslighting you. The only people unable to grasp generalities are women and the Jays. A lot of people struggle to grasp it, but yeah, women are notorious for that. Jays are just, Jews are very histrionic. Anyway. But yeah, no, the Mark Levin, we'll react to that next, at least a clip from that.
We, in his words, don't care about America and also want to get his kids killed in a foreign war.
I've got 4 draft age children.
Ben doesn't care about
So
it.
if you're playing
we already watched this.
to do, it's not
Ideological launderer for other people's evils. Tucker Carlson says,
What does that mean?
To me, there's nothing abstract about it.
But most of all, Tucker Carlson acts as an ideological launderer for other people's evils. Tucker Carlson says many inflammatory things, always buying back just enough of it to appear.
Yeah, he's just making these evil ideas more palatable to the masses. Don't listen to these ideas because they're evil. Never mind that maybe, maybe our political opposition isn't always, or political or ideological opposition isn't always downright evil. Isn't that how the left thinks, Ben Shapiro? Isn't that what you said? The left thinks that the right are just evil. Like, do you really think all Iranians are just evil, irredeemable scum? You don't think like Iran is that they're acting in their own interests, whether it's the Ayatollah or Pezeshkian? You don't think that they're like this kind of rhetoric is like, it's for fucking idiots, man. That's not how the world works. You think everybody else, except for you, or people that you approve of because they align with your interests, are just evil? How is that any different from the left calling even just moderate conservatives Nazis, and that we need to punch and kill Nazis? That's what they say. And so fundamentally, you see how Ben Shapiro actually agrees with the left in that regard. Ben Shapiro for years has grifted on that, but he is the very thing that he states publicly, overtly, that he opposes. So it's just one big grift, and people are seeing that now. They really are, and that's why they don't take him seriously. So you beat Mark Levin in a 1v1 on BO2. Yeah, hit him with the trick shot at the end. I never played BO2. I skipped it. But apparently it was goated.
As though he's not saying what he's clearly saying. He's a master of gaslighting. Tucker Carlson, for example, would never say out loud what Nick Fuentes does. He wouldn't say the things many of his guests say. And so instead, he acts as an ideological launderer. He takes
He's
other
not entirely wrong
hideous
about
ideas.
this, though.
He softens them. He treats them with love and care.
Because Tucker does dress everything down. He plays ignorant. He plays stupid. He's a lot smarter than he lets on. It is a little insulting to, I think, his audience's intelligence and sometimes it's overt. Sometimes it's obvious when he's talking to Nick and he's like, what is porn? It's like, well, I know that's likely a rhetorical question. Like, I think Tucker knows what porn is, but it's like, come on, bro. Like, you could ask a little more pointed question. What do you think about porn? How does it affect? You know what I'm saying? Like, I know what the idea is to get like Nick to expand on this idea and see where the conversation goes. But it's like, okay, if you're asking a rhetorical question, just ask what you really mean. Don't insult anyone's intelligence by being so obtuse. What's up, Hawker? How's it going, dog? That was a classic. Nick almost had to explain porn to Tucker. It's like, bruh, I think everybody here knows what pornography is, okay? And you don't need to be an absolute gooner to know what that is. Like, seriously. Hello? What are we doing? What are we doing here? What are we doing?
And then he provides them with a massive signal boost. He isn't merely talking to people in good faith, of course. He's promoting certain people and ideas and attacking others. So, for example, he'll ask a series of wildly obsequious questions to Nick Fuentes. He'll even let Nick Fuentes' support for Joseph Stalin slide.
It's actually funny. It was December 18th. I remember because that's an important date to me. And it's Joseph Stalin's birthday.
Oh.
I'm a fan.
You're a fan of Stalin's?
Mm-hmm. Always an admirer. But we don't need to go into that, I guess.
Well, that's okay. Let's get back to it. We'll circle back to that.
I just like how people are so one-dimensional. It's like, dude, yeah, like obviously Stalin did a lot of bad things. Obviously, he's an evil guy. We were opposed to communism and the Bolsheviks, all of that. But say what you will, Stalin was a truly influential man. One of the most influential leaders that has ever existed. He was truly consequential. And what he achieved in terms of collecting power, in terms of turning Russia into an industrial superpower, one of the 2 superpowers in the world, in just about 20 short years or so, is nothing short of absolutely remarkable. Like, that's insane to think about. like, and the level of control that he had, the level of power that a single man wielded, that is like just insane to think about. Like, that's pretty, if you're a real human being, you could say, yeah, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Don't like the Holodomor, don't like, communism, don't like any of that stuff. But that, having that level of aura, having your own secret police. Say anything bad about Stalin, you die. You go to the gulag. There's something pretty cool about that, having that level of absolute control. Imagine if you had a benevolent dictator like that. Imagine what you could do. Imagine if our guy had that level of power, and instead of using it for evil, instead of using that to, kill a bunch of white people and Christians, and we don't need to rehash all of the evils of the Soviet Union. But you use that to actually do good. Imagine what you can accomplish. Imagine if Nick had that level of power. Dude, like, within a year, we'd be back on track, man. It's like... But so many people are incapable of thinking like that. It's like, Stalin bad, Hitler bad. Or even like a lot of these revisionists, I don't know, pick your poison. Winston Churchill, or it's like, yeah, things are more nuanced than that. Anyway.
But he will grill Ted Cruz about the population of Iran. Tucker Carlson will have on Vladimir Putin's evil anti-American mouthpiece, Alexander Dugin, and then praise him.
Alexander Dugin is a 62-year-old Russian academic philosopher. He spent his life in Moscow. He was an anti-Soviet dissident as a young man. And now he is famous the world over, in the English language press anyway, as, quote, Putin's brain. But he is not a political figure here in Russia. He is, once again, a philosopher. And his ideas are deeply offensive to some people. In August of 2022, his only daughter was murdered in Moscow when a car bomb killed her. U.S. intelligence says she was murdered by the Ukrainian government, and we take that at face value. But what's interesting is that, once again, Alexander Dugin is not a military leader. He's not a close daily advisor to Vladimir Putin. He is a writer who writes about big ideas. And for this, his books have been banned by the Biden administration in the United States. You cannot buy them on Amazon. Banning books in the United States because the ideas inside are too dangerous.
I think Dugin is a little more influential in Putin's circle than just a writer, but yeah.
He's often described, again, in the English language press, as far right. We'll let you assess, but we wanted to...
Like all of this is suspicious. Like all of this all is suspicious, like how much diplomacy Tucker is conducting. I feel like I'm rehashing a lot of stuff that most of you probably already know, but yeah, like this is all, you could say, part of the case that Tucker is a Fed of sorts.
Talk to him about some of his ideas, these ideas that are so dangerous.
Didn't Richard Spencer's wife translate Dugin's book? You're telling me, I don't know. Is that true? I had no idea. That's interesting, if that is true. That is interesting. Interesting.
That his only daughter was murdered over them, and his book's been banned in the United States.
Tucker Carlson will have on a Hitler-friendly pseudo-historian to minimize the Holocaust and blame Winston Churchill for World War II. And he will call him America's best and most honest historian.
I thought Churchill was the chief villain of the Second World War. Now, he didn't kill the most people. He didn't commit the most atrocities. But I believe, and I think when you really get into it and tell the story right and don't leave anything out, you see that he was primarily responsible for that war becoming what it did, becoming something other than an invasion of Poland. Germany, look, they put themselves into a position, and Adolf Hitler is chiefly responsible for this, but his whole regime is responsible for it, that when they went into the East in 1941, they launched a war where they were completely unprepared to deal with the millions and millions of prisoners of war, of local political prisoners and so forth that they were going to have to handle. They went in with no plan for that. And they just threw these people into camps, and millions of people ended up dead there.
And that is the pseudo-historian that Tucker Carlson has said is the best and most honest historian in America. Tucker Carlson will have on over and over a pro-Chinese propagandist who used global warming to promote global socialism, all in order to criticize Israel and hug China.
Dude. Ben, what are you doing? Yes, this is credible evidence. There is credible evidence that Richard Spencer's ex-wife, I'm not going to try to pronounce it, Nina Kuprianova, also known by her pen name Nina Byzantina, translated some works of Alexander Dugin into English. Is that why Richard is so pro-Ukraine and NATO? Is that the real reason? Not because he's an imperialist, but because he wants to spite his ex-wife? That's kind of funny if that's true. Can you imagine? He doesn't actually give a shit about NATO or the American empire. He just really has it out for his ex-wife. That'd be pretty funny.
Israel has run American foreign policy in the Middle East for 30 years. That's how it works.
Oh,
this is actually the truth.
He's like literally Ben is literally just red pilling his whole audience right now. Like, what is bro doing? What is bro doing?
We drop our angst on big bad Russia. Actually, we didn't have a chance to talk about it this time. Maybe another time, big bad China, which is also not going to invade the United States, not going to threaten us, not going to go to war with us. They got they're trying to deal with aging, and they've got their declining population and many other things. Not that they're falling apart. It's a very impressive civilization, but they're not a threat to the United States, honestly. And Iran is not a threat.
Well, I don't know if I go like that far. Threaten in like which sense? Like, yeah, I would agree. Like, China would never invade America. Like in a kinetic war for obvious reasons. I mean, just they don't really have I don't think they have the logistics to support that. I don't think they have the Navy to actually invade. You know, their range on their Navy is very limited. So they're still going through these growing pains. So I don't think that was ever realistic, but you know, it's a competition. They're growing in power, and they're the alternative to the American system, the American empire. America doesn't want to play that way. We don't want to share. They don't really want to share. They want to be as powerful as possible. We want to be as powerful as possible. So there's friction there. So I mean, we can go on and on about that, but I think that, you know, they are in many ways attempting to destabilize America. I mean, they are selling fentanyl to these drug cartels, so that's not good. But yeah, I think no, I would agree. I don't think like we're gonna see a Chinese fleet off of the West Coast. I think that's very unlikely. I think they'll wage war in other ways.
Tucker Carlson, of course, brings on pro-Hamas voices episode after episode after episode. The instances are almost limitless. Tucker Carlson will host Andrew Tate, a pornographer and scam artist who mocks rape victims and preaches a cult of narcissism and cruelty. And, of course, Tucker Carlson will glorify him and present him as a maligned truth teller rather than an emblem of moral rot. See, this is how Tucker Carlson's ideological laundering works. You bring your dirty, ugly ideologies to Tucker Carlson's rhetorical car wash. He mixes it with some of the vestigial respect Americans have for him from his Fox News days, and voila, hideous ideas suddenly become mainstream. And then, of course, Tucker denies he said anything controversial at all. He was just asking questions. He was just interviewing people. You don't want him to cancel people, do you? Of course, there is no First Amendment right to a Tucker Carlson sensual massage. But to listen to Tucker, you'd think there was, so long as you despise America, oppose President Trump's foreign policy, and bear a peculiar dislike of Jews. Tucker Carlson, you see, is a coward. And here is where his relationship with Nick Fuentes begins, with Nick Fuentes correctly pointing out that Tucker Carlson is a coward. You see, Tucker Carlson, a few weeks back, had on Candace Owens to treat her to his usual ideological laundering services. That's after years of Candace Owens saying things like this.
And it is the case that dinosaur bones, for whatever reason, are always just found by the paleontologist. Like, it's not like you and me walking outside. I'm like, hey, a dinosaur bone. And, or by somebody who's related to a paleontologist. It's very strange. And then, but it was just convenient for Israel that JFK got shot. It was just convenient, you guys. Totally convenient. It was convenient for Israel, by the way, when the towers went down. I just want to be clear.
Anything happens to me, blame the Zionists. Like 1000% blame the Zionists. Like let that be my parting word. I'm waking people up to the fact that pedophiles are in power.
Yes.
They are literally in power. And that is intentional because then they can be controlled while they are in power. And they are also exhibiting signs of a psychopathology that lets them know that they will do harm to the masses and feel nothing because they were themselves, many of them, raped when they were children. Yep. It is not a coincidence that Justin Trudeau is gay. Obama, gay. Zelensky, gay. Emmanuel Macron, gay and married to a trans man who molested him when he was a child.
Isn't it, what do they call it? Is it apex widowing? Is that what it is? It feels like Ben is doing that. He's just like, these are all like people he's had, like he's tried to cancel in the past, you know? Nick, Candace, I guess Tucker now. Also, it's like, he picked some pretty tame clips from Candace. She has a whole repertoire of, you want to make Candace look like a nut job. You have plenty of clips to choose from. Well, you do realize that it was Ben and Cassie Dillon's actions activating Nick. This will do the same. No, I realize that. What are we talking about though? What will do the same? This is punching down. Candace is an easy kill. Yeah, I mean, look, and that's why, look, Candace just kind of makes us look stupid when she's just making all these claims. She's like always pivoting. She's never wrong. She never retracts statements. Somehow when she gets debunked or something's disproven, somehow that still vindicates her theory. Like with the whole UTC scandal, the time zone scandal. And for those that don't know, the Provo airport, which is an airport about 40 minutes south of where Charlie Kirk was assassinated, or that same day, there was an Egyptian plane, a plane carrying like Egyptian military or Egyptian officials, I forget exactly, government personnel, took off from Provo Airport. Now the time zone, I forgot what the exact time was, but it was in UTC. And if you didn't know how time zones worked, which I guess Candace didn't, she thought that plane took off shortly after Charlie Kirk was killed. But if you corrected the time zone for mountain time, it actually took off several hours before Charlie Kirk was assassinated. So her claim that was at one point she was speculating, because that's what she does, she was implying that Egypt had something to do with Charlie Kirk's assassination and they took off after he was killed, shortly after. And it was revealed that they took off something like, I forget exactly, but like 7 hours before the event took place, several hours at least. Then she said, oh, well, my point still stands. It's like, okay. So if you're right, you're right. If you're wrong, you're still right. What amount of evidence is required to debunk your theory, in your mind at least? How much would it take for you to, like, correct yourself? And you see this a lot with conspiracy theorists in general, where they just, like, continuously double down. They're met with new evidence and, oh, that's not reliable. Oh, that's not real. Oh, but that doesn't change my perspective. That actually vindicates my perspective. And it's very frustrating. It's very frustrating. And so, like, having her be like a very prominent voice in the like anti-Israel crowd, it's creating a lot of problems for us when it comes to credibility. I think one of the reasons why they're freaking out about Tucker doing this interview more than they did with Candace is because Tucker has a lot of credibility. Tucker has a lot of influence in conservative politics, especially among, I think, more intellectual and influential people. I think Candace's audience is not as impressive as Tucker's, just in general. And so having someone like Tucker gives a lot more credibility to Nick and his ideas than somebody like Candace. And I think that's why they're freaking out way harder now than when Nick did a collab with Candace. Ben should play the clip where Nick admits Candace is his son. Yeah, true.
Well, Candace Owens had recently hosted Nick Fuentes, and this led Tucker Carlson, in an attempt to dissociate from Fuentes, to label him a weird little gay kid operating from a basement, and a Fed as well.
That's obvious to me. I've been around
don't
a long
understand it.
time. I know it when I see it.
Yeah, and I will say I don't understand it. We were very kind to him. Like I truly, like we almost
She's
said, like
such a bitch.
we felt maybe he was a bit lonely. We should invite him back for dinner. I mean, that's how good of
he
an
was just a
experience I
lonely little
had.
guy.
Yeah, it's clearly
and
it's
then it was a
sad.
180. So it's either A, it's being driven from like a little boy insecurity, and he just was so worried that he like just went on the attack because he doesn't know how to have normal relations after being banned everywhere.
Well, I think there's the kind of
that could be one element.
the angry gay
Or-
kid thing going on. Yeah.
Well, Nick Fuentes did not take kindly to this. After all, here was Tucker Carlson, a man Nick Fuentes correctly sees as a fellow traveler, dismissing him, all the while refusing to say the sorts of things for which Fuentes takes slings and arrows. And so Fuentes unleashed on him as a fraud and also as an expert on gaslighting.
Tucker is like the goat of gaslighting. But unironically, he goes up at the memorial and said, Charlie Kirk told the truth. You know who else told the truth? Jesus. And you know what happened? He got killed by Jews. And people said, so are you saying that the Jews killed Charlie Kirk in the way that they killed Jesus?
Yeah.
For telling the truth because they hate the truth? And Tucker said, I never said that. You're crazy. I never said that. Everyone eats hummus. What do you mean? Everyone runs Jerusalem. But I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth. Tucker Carlson says, I have so many trust funds, I never have to work. Tucker went to a $45,000 per year private high school, then a $45,000 per year selective Ivy League school in New England. Tucker Carlson's daddy was a Reagan appointee. And then, after years of bragging about being an elite, bragging about being so out of touch and so rich, now he's going to be the spokesperson for all the white people. Now he's going to roll up his sleeves. I just like to hunt and fish in my log cabin. I care about Klarna and credit card debt. But then when it comes to me, I'm one of the real disaffected white people. You want to talk about me and them? I am them.
Well, there was one big problem for Tucker Carlson in all of this. Nick Fuentes is absolutely 100% correct. Tucker is a coward, and Tucker's audience, much of which he shares with Nick Fuentes, knows it. And so Tucker hit upon a final stratagem. He let Nick Fuentes cuck him. He brought Nick Fuentes on to legitimate his ideology. He signal boosted
This is
Fuentes,
kinda cuck,
glossed him,
actually.
shined him, presented him to the world, all in order to protect his own reputation with his online base, a base he is competing over with Nick Fuentes. Now, of course, Tucker has a right to do all of this for the 100th time. He can do what he likes. This is America. But there's no question that Tucker has become the most virulent super spreader of vile ideas in America. And the rest of us who oppose those vile ideas have every right to call him that. There's one other element here that's even darker, if possible. Tucker Carlson preys on the friendship he proclaims with others, and then he knifes them directly between the shoulder blades when convenient for him. Tucker Carlson is, in short, a terrible friend. Tucker Carlson was supposedly Charlie Kirk's friend. Charlie believed that Nick Fuentes was vermin. That's a direct quote. He believed that because Nick Fuentes dedicated his life to destroying Charlie Kirk and
So you're gonna
TPUSA
stand on
from
Charlie's
the inside.
body as well?
In fact, here's Nick Fuentes describing Charlie Kirk the month before Charlie.
Anybody that talks to Nick Fuentes is spitting on the body of Charlie Kirk, who was brutally murdered. What, you're pro-murder now? How dare you? How dare you talk to Nick Fuentes? If Charlie Kirk were alive today, Charlie Kirk is rolling in his grave. You're urinating on his casket. They're gonna milk that for as much as they can, dude. They are milking that for every ounce. They will stand on Charlie Kirk's body for years to come. Pretty gross.
Was murdered.
Charlie Kirk cannot call himself a Christian anymore. Sorry, you forfeited that. I do not want to hear, and you cannot allow Charlie Kirk to go to one more public event, one more question and answer, one more ask me anything, without being protested, without being shouted down, without being interrogated about this. This guy goes around from campus to campus in the most artificial and phony and fake way.
And here is Nick Fuentes describing how he destroyed TPUSA from the inside.
Whether he chooses to confront me or not, whether he has dignity and honor or not, it's just a matter of time. My ideas are already there. I've already impregnated your organization. I took Turning Point USA and I fucked it. I took your organization, I took your baby, Turning Point USA, and I fucked it. And I've been fucking it. And that's why it's filled with groypers. That's why your whole crew, that's why the people around you, that's why your chapter presidents, that's why your attendees, they're all groypers.
And here's Nick Fuentes calling Charlie Kirk unpatriotic and talking about how he's a retarded idiot and saying all firepower should be focused on Charlie Kirk.
I think a lot of people are starting to find out Charlie Kirk is not the patriot that he says he is. And so I look at what happened last night and I think to myself, this is totally a doable operation. You know, Charlie Kirk in the grand scheme of things is just some retarded idiot. The dog is terrified. I had to go upstairs and reassure him because I'm screaming at my screen, calling Charlie Kirk a bitch and everything. The contrast could not be more clear. Charlie Kirk is a totally unexceptional human being. A moral struggle that's happening on the higher dimension, right? Which is Christ versus the devil. Who does Charlie Kirk serve? You know, is he really a Christian? Is he really Christ-like when he supports foreign wars and Israel and all this? Look at the people he's taking money from. You know, so the guy's a fake Christian. The guy's not a patriot. He hates our country. He's un-American. Let's focus all our firepower on Charlie Kirk. Why are we doing this? It's because Charlie Kirk is a fake patriot, a fake Christian, and he hates his people. He's anti-white. This is our angle.
Nick Fuentes despised Charlie Kirk. And for good reason, because Charlie Kirk actually opposed Nick's evil program. Here's what Charlie Kirk had to say about Nick Fuentes' agenda.
But if you go back to the original founding fathers, they intended this to be a European nation for white men of good stock and character.
So, can you show me, let me answer the question. Can you show me where in the United States Constitution it says that?
It wasn't in the Constitution.
It wasn't in the Constitution because they didn't believe it.
The founding...
Look at the first act of Congress, man, where they intended immigration to come from. White men of good moral character. Are we... okay, let's just let the clip play out.
What does the phrase e pluribus unum mean? What does the phrase e pluribus unum mean?
Why is that relevant?
Because it was on every founding document and presidential seal from our founding, which means out of many, one. You, sir, and your ideology is not conservative. It is right-wing, identitarian. It has no place in the conservative movement, my friend. Get out of line. Get out of line.
Like, just, dude, look at how performative that was, man. Did did Charlie Kirk ever get that animated when somebody was advocating for abortion? Like, seriously, man. He hates people who, like, he hates white identitarianism more than he hates abortionists. More than he hates liberals. Seriously, the very liberals that cheered on his death, he hated all the right-wingers that sobbed and prayed for him. Just think about that for a second. The Groypers were far more torn up about his death than any of these liberals were. That was obvious. Go back and watch Nick's show. I was pretty torn up for a few days after that. It was terrible. Charlie is the dog in the mask meme. Yeah, dude, it's like, just think about that for a second. And so, second of all, are we really going to pretend like the founding fathers weren't, like, by today's standards, super racist? Like, what is this revisionism? Like, seriously, e pluribus unum? And because it wasn't in the Constitution, oh, okay, I guess that means that the founding fathers clearly wanted infinite immigration from places all around the world, from people that don't look like them, had nothing in common with, had really nothing but hostility for their way of life, their ideology, Christianity, of which most of them were Christian. But it discounts how, okay, the founding fathers are one thing, but what about all the other white Americans that actually built this country over the last 2.5 centuries? Do they not matter? Does their opinion not matter? I just hate how they and a lot of these like these third worlder types try to weaponize the Constitution, the founding fathers against Americans. And it's like, look, man, that's not going to work. Like when Mehdi Hasan tries to, his revisionist history on all of these white Americans, to make the case that he's somehow more American, because why exactly is that? Because of something very specific about the Constitution, let alone and just completely ignoring all the context and all the other evidence to the contrary. No, like the founding fathers actually wanted people like Mehdi Hasan to be in America, and actually would agree that someone like Mehdi Hasan, who has nothing but disdain towards white people and white Americans, he's actually more American. That's totally fucking ridiculous. Just on its face, it's a ridiculous claim. And it's like, look, I refuse to be lectured by all of these non-Americans about America and what America is, and especially what America ought to be. So, yeah, Charlie Kirk, he was not ideologically aligned with us. I think that's clear. When he would much rather converse with and align himself with deranged lunatics, mentally ill leftists, and people who just had a strong affinity towards white America and their culture and their history. So nice. And when are we gonna play Arc Raiders? Are you on now? This is almost done, but Nick is gonna go live.
I don't platform trolls, and I don't platform, and I don't discuss people, or I don't debate with people that are not good faith actors. And
you debate Maoists and people who champion.
They can keep on yelling at how successful we are. And
in a sense, he's right. Because of Islam, the U.S. Marines were created. Yeah, those damn Barbary pirates.
Our big events and well over 1,000 employees.
Hey, dude, I just love when Mehdi Hasan was trying to make the case that I saw like another account, Khaleesi, saying like, the first leader that congratulated America was, I think it was the Moroccan king. Do I have that right? And they're trying to make the case that, like, ever since America's founding, Islam has been, like, a part of it. And it's just, like, so fucking ridiculous. What was the first conflict we went into? Like, please. No.
But there's a lot of jealousy out there. We build, they complain. We
Nick
succeed, we win.
Nick said he's going live at 9. That's in 17 minutes. DM on Discord when you're done yapping about yappers yapping. Yeah. I'll let you know. We'll play some Arc Raiders. Fun game, by the way. Really fun game.
And they blame the Jews.
After Charlie's death, TPUSA made Tucker Carlson one of its chief faces. Tucker, of course, spoke at Charlie's memorial, where he implied that hummus-eating nefarious Jews killed Charlie, with no mention of the ideology of the actual alleged murderer, who was, of course, a trans activist gay furry. Tucker Carlson, in fact, has spent more time talking about Jews and Israel since Charlie's death than about the Trans-Tifa ideology that motivated Charlie Kirk's killer. By a long shot, it's not close, which is not a surprise, since he seems to spend very little time these days attacking anyone on the left. Well, now, Tucker Carlson has seen fit to launder Nick Fuentes, the person who hated Charlie most and who wished him destruction. That's not an act of friendship, it's an act of sick evil. And then, of course, there's Tucker Carlson's relationship with the vice president. Certainly, Vice President Vance has been quite generous with Tucker Carlson. That loyalty was not reciprocated last week, to say the least. Here, for example, is what Nick Fuentes has said about J.D. Vance's wife, Usha.
Andrew Tate and Bronze Age pervert and all these people, for years, all they talk about is going to the gym, being a vitalist, fighting the Matrix, India smells bad, all this kind of shit. And now they're all in favor of a fat race mixer who's married to a Jeet who named his son Vivek, who was mentored by a Jewish neocon and a gay fed, Peter Thiel.
This guy has a non-white wife and a kid named Vivek. This guy is going to be a defender of white identity.
Dude, it's so crazy how bad the audio used to be on a real level.
I don't think so. This guy's going to defend American identity.
His new set is so much better.
You slammed J.D. Vance for having an Indian wife. Yet Trump's wife is an immigrant who was working here legally for a time. His son is half foreign, bilingual, and holds dual citizenship. Yet you give him a pass. You're either a hypocrite or just retarded.
She's white. Dude, she's white. If we had millions of Slovenian supermodels immigrating to America, I don't think we'd have a big problem with it.
Tucker Carlson had on Nick Fuentes and did not ask him a single question about any of this. He just brought him on to launder his ugly ideas and make him more popular. That doesn't seem quite like the act of a friend. Which, finally, brings us to the Heritage Foundation. Now, I have a long and admiring relationship with the Heritage Foundation. One of the very first outlets to pick up my syndicated column when I was 17 years old, 24 years ago, was townhall.com, then a property of the Heritage Foundation. I know most of the leadership very well, and I have for decades. I know Kevin Roberts, and I like him, and I'm grateful for his contributions to the conservative movement. If you're a regular watcher of this show, you can check the interview I did with Kevin on the release of his book just last December. Which is why what Kevin Roberts did last week is tragic and awful. He put out a statement that Heritage Foundation didn't just stand by Tucker Carlson. Kevin instead said openly and repeatedly that Tucker Carlson can do nothing, ever, that will sever his relationship with the conservative movement. He said that after and in defense of Tucker's glossing of Hitler defender Nick Fuentes. And he added that only members of the globalist class, direct quote, a venomous coalition, direct quote, subject to the dictates of someone else's agenda, direct quote, oppose Heritage's ongoing relationship with Tucker Carlson, which means that according to Kevin Roberts, apparently, anyone opposing the ongoing mainstreaming of Tucker Carlson is acting on behalf of a foreign power. Kevin's statement is a betrayal of the Heritage Foundation's history and principles, which is presumably why both Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes loved it. And that's a tragedy, because America needs a robust conservative organization based on principle and ideas, not personal loyalty to bad actors like Tucker Carlson.
Dude, this is so tired, man. We've heard this all a million times before. Like, where did ideas get us exactly, you know? We're so far past that, it's not even funny.
We need strong leaders in the conservative movement, willing to speak out against the moral rot that threatens our future. I hope Kevin Roberts and Heritage show us that they can still be those leaders. But if not, we'll have to look elsewhere. So, why is all of this happening? Because, like the Democratic Party, the Republican Party is being eaten by its radicals. Many in the political class are too cowardly to stand up. Apparently, they're willing to play footsie with Groypers and hug Tucker Carlson out of fear of somehow losing support. They've been bamboozled by the lies of the X algorithm and the TikTok metrics. The left followed its radicals to electoral hell. Apparently, many on the right wish to do the same. Forget the morality, then, for just a moment. Let's be pragmatic. Here is the thing. Americans hate Nick Fuentes' philosophy. They think it's trash. Republicans, by the polling, think it's trash.
Oh, fuck, I muted myself. Damn it. Thanks for... I'm just going through the comments. I'm just going through the comments here. I'm just going through the comments. Sorry, I accidentally pressed mute when I was clearing my throat. Yeah, I'm just reading what's on screen here. Like, Ben says that these ideas aren't popular. Just look at the comments, man. I just... Get back to work, Matt Walsh. Get back to work. Yeah, dude, like, just look at this. This is, like, so he's just wrong, man. No, these ideas are popular. These ideas are popular. The people are with Nick. He's getting fucking cooked. And yeah, in about 10 minutes, right, because Nick said he's going to go live at 9. We'll hear Nick's take. Usually when he posts on Twitter, when he's gonna go live, it's about a very specific thing like this. He's usually pretty good on starting like on time.
Independents think it's trash. Democrats think it's trash. And here's the other thing. Americans hate Tucker Carlson's laundered anti-Americanism. Republicans think it's trash. Independents think it's trash. Democrats think it's trash. Americans are not pro-segregation, pro-rape, anti-woman, pro-child marriage, anti-black, anti-Jew, anti-Indian, anti-Latino, anti-Constitution, pro-Hitler nutjobs like Nick Fuentes. And Americans are not pro-Putin, pro-Iran, pro-China, pro-Venezuela, pro-Hamas, pro-Fuentes, pro-Tate idiots like Tucker Carlson. They hate this vile garbage. If Republicans decide to cower before the likes of neo-Nazis and their propagandizers, they deserve to lose. And they will lose. Neo-Nazis and their propagandizers are not Republicans. They are not America First. They are not MAGA. They sure as hell aren't conservative. These people aren't to my right. They are not attached in any way to the fundamental principles of conservatism. And these people have already declared themselves to be my enemies. I'd be a fool not to take them seriously. If they get their way, they will hollow out the Republican Party, lead it to electoral catastrophe, and empty it and the country of any semblance of decency in the process. My answer is no. No to the Groypers. No to their publicists like Tucker Carlson. No to those who champion them. No to demoralization. No to bigotry and anti-meritocratic horse shit. No to anti-Americanism. No. This is our country. This is our party. And this is our conservative movement. And I will not stand by while it is handed over to those who betray the most fundamental principles I have spent my entire life defending.
You're not American. Yours. I mean, fine. I guess you can have it. You want to define conservatism as this. Who will be conservative?
Defending and advocating.
Nobody's conservative anymore.
That is a path to defeat and a path to moral oblivion. I reject it because if we lose the right, we will lose to the left. And either way, we'll lose the country. I'm Ben Shapiro. This is The Ben Shapiro Show.
It's so fucking gay, dude. He just cried. He just emotionally cried the entire show. That was just 4 minutes of, I can't believe he said that. Like, aren't we over that? Oh, dude. That was pretty funny. That was pretty good. That was good content. That was good content. It's a good vid. Ben Glaznick. Yeah, I know, right? Like just
entire life defending and advocating.
Where is it?
That is a path to defeat, but is handed over to the Americanism. No, like Tucker Carlson. No, to my enemies. I'd be conservative, and they will lose. Pro-Venezuela, pro-Hamas, pro-anti-Constitution, pro-Hitler nutjobs like
yeah. It's just, dude. He really did just show clips and complain. That was the whole thing, man. That was the whole thing. Hey, can you believe he said that? He's such an immoral idiot. Can you believe he said this? He's such a moral idiot. So evil. So wrong. He's gonna lose. Like, dude. Whoa. What happened to the facts? What happened to the logic? These are not logical arguments. These are emotional appeals. What happened, Ben? He's cooked, dude. He's fucking cooked. He's cooked. America first. Yeah, well, just debate him. Just debate him. Just debate him, Ben. Not going anywhere. You tried to smother him in the womb. You tried to snuff him out in the cradle. Well, he's blowing up bigger than ever before. So, Walsh and Knowles need to leave the Daily Wire. They're getting cucked so hard. Dude, have you seen Matt? Yeah, Matt Fradd too. Dude, honestly, no, fuck those guys, man. Like, Matt Fradd, what the fuck are you doing? What are you doing? Never mind the fact that, like, the Daily Wire clearly has just contempt for Catholicism. I mean, I don't know if I have that clip, right? Let's see here. It might be under, like, react to. Let's see here. No. Why not have it? Good. Ugh. Let me see if I can, Yeah, here we go.
Claven.
Like these two Jews have on repeated occasions made fun of Christ, made fun of Catholicism. And this fucking sellout, 30 pieces of silver. And it's like, not only is that, as a matter of like principles and morality, pretty reprehensible that you would do business with these people, knowing who they are and what they think about Catholics and Jesus Christ and what they really represent. But it's also just, it shows remarkable ignorance and stupidity. Really, just when it comes to self-preservation and what is good for your own image, your own brand. Daily Wire is going downhill. They've had financial struggles for years. They're losing credibility. Look at the trend. If you look at the trend graph there, they've been going downhill. They're grasping at what they can on their way down. Why would you align yourself with that, knowing how unoptical that is? I just find that so disgusting to me. I just find it so just listen to this clip as Flavin just mocks Catholicism.
Could be both. I mean, it could be both of those things actually.
Claven,
Well,
you
I-
texted
the
me
way I
and
feel-
said that there are more Catholics at Daily Wire than at the Vatican, and I wasn't sure if you knew that may have been a dark joke about the Vatican or not, but it was a good one.
I actually am impressed that the Catholics are actually getting nicer. I mean, I actually like Matt, which is as opposed to these guys, and it is getting to be. It's like the Vatican except for straight people. It's so it's really it's really exciting.
There's the clip.
Now,
I object on the record to that.
Dude. They're all fucking laughing. Like, and look, it's one thing, like, yeah, like, you can laugh at yourself. Catholics can poke fun at themselves. Is this a good faith jab? Is this a good faith joke? How do you think that these two would have reacted if you made fun of the synagogue? A medzitzah bipe, some rabbi sucking on a newly circumcised baby's penis. How do you think the tone would sound on this panel? If one of these three Shabbos goy made a joke at Judaism's expense, I think we all know the answer. These fucking people, these fucking spineless cowards that aren't even willing to stand up for their God. They're not even willing to stand up for God's church. And they're selling out every single day. Fuck these people, man. That they would just sit here and allow the Catholic Church to just be belittled by people who have nothing but contempt for it. Because they get a paycheck from them. And Clavet's son is married to a dude. Yeah, very Christian. Yeah, Christian guy, by the way. Is there anything Catholic about that? About being proud of your gay son's gay marriage? Is that Catholic? How does that align with Catholicism exactly? It's just disgusting, man. And yeah, and like, so people like Matt Fradd, like, people like that should be canceled from Catholic Inc. I just find that so disgusting, man. Just so absolutely aggravating. It's just so aggravating, man. Anyway. Let's also look at
Hitler admired.
Yeah, here's Mark Levin just losing his fucking mind.
Hitler admires, Stalin admires, Jew haters, American haters, Churchill haters. You're damn right we're going to cancel them and deplatform them. It's called the mark.
Wait, I thought Ben Shapiro said it's not canceling, though. Ben Shapiro said it's not canceling somebody to disagree with them and find their views morally reprehensible. That's not cancellation. That's part of the free marketplace of ideas. It's like, dude, shut the fuck up.
System. They don't have
So
a
disingenuous.
lifetime job like a bureaucrat who we're going to protect. And if they're your friend, there's something wrong with you. No Hitler admirer, Holocaust denier, platformer should be anybody's friend, as a matter of fact. You don't get to wrap your psychotic, mental, unhinged, Nazi, Klan, jihadist bullshit around American patriotism. You don't get to claim you're MAGA and America first when you're lining up with the Marxists and the Islamists and Hamas and the terrorists. That's not America first. That's sick.
Don't care, rip bozo. Don't care what you have to say, rip bozo. Rip bozo. Oh, it's about 9 o'clock. Is Nick live? No tweet yet. No tweet yet, but he should be going live pretty soon.
Voting patterns that Democrats brag about. They brag about this. The so-called browning of America, which is something I've said I don't care about, because I don't care about that. I care about how people vote. I care about how people assimilate. I care about how people reflect American values in the Declaration of Independence and Constitution. I've said this stuff very openly, very clearly, many, many, many times. But the idea here is that if you care about any of those things, then you are part of the Great Replacement Theory. According to the left, everybody on the right is responsible for white supremacist shootings, including people like me, who literally are featured as a rat in the manifesto. I'm not.
I just love how that's framed, though. It's like, dude, obviously people care about assimilation. Like, obviously white people care that, you know, non-white people assimilate. But it's like this idea that, you know, it's such an evil thing. This idea, because it's true that America's becoming less white, that's an evil. It's somehow wrong or backwards to care about that. It's just true. I think just replace that with any other country. You don't think Mexicans would feel threatened if Mexico was being flooded with Chinese people and all of a sudden all these Mexican neighborhoods, people were speaking Chinese? It's like, wait a second, buddy. This is Mexico. We care about Mexicans and we care about the Spanish, like we speak the Spanish language. Same thing for China. You think China would be cool if a bunch of, I don't know, Mexicans or Nigerians came into China? Fuck no. They would nip that in the bud. And it's like, I feel like it's just, the reason is just so obvious. Because what is in the best interests of that ethnic group, if not for their ethnic group being in power? And it's really just that simple. Why, like, let's just take China. Why would a Chinese person living in China want to be ruled over by someone that isn't Chinese? Think about all of the baggage that comes with that. It's so much harder to empathize with somebody else if they're of a different background than if they're of your own. As such, they're less likely to care about your interests, even just see the world the same way, care about your culture, just by definition of just being different, of having a different background. It's just so, I just really think it's obvious, and it's really first principles. And you know, it's just, they keep painting Nick as this like this guy that he's not, that holds beliefs that he doesn't. So I don't know, man. Things are changing, people are waking up, and you look at America First, dude, it's, yeah, like the thrust of it is white America and protecting that, but it's filled with, you know, there's a lot of people in America First that are not white. There are Mexicans, there are Asians, there are black people in America First that support Nick, that Nick supports. Or even Jews, for that matter. And I think that it's almost like, are you pro-humanity? Are you like pro-peace? Are you pro-let's get along? Or are you not? Because I think a lot of people who might not even be necessarily like white or Christian even, can see the utility in America staying a white Christian country. That it would be better for them than if it became something else, like the way that it is now. Just look at how people are being treated now than they were 70 years ago when America is way more white. And frankly, by, you know, that same line of thinking, by today's definition, like more racist. Like, yeah, people were probably way more openly racist in the 50s than they are today, but is America better today than they were in the 50s? And that's not to say I want to go back to a period of time where, you know, I want people to be treated humanely, and I want us to find like a common understanding. I truly want everybody to get along as best as we can, but there's a way that we need to accomplish that. There's a very, I think, specific path that we can accomplish that. And I think obviously that has to come from Christianity. But I also think that even just this idea of having like a liberal society, I think that is one that would only work in a country or a civilization that's European. I don't think that would work in like an East Asian society or an African society. I think that those civilizations are far less benevolent to outside groups than Europeans have been. And just the proof is in the pudding. You know, look at China. How many non-Chinese people are in any position of power in China? Look at India. Do you see a lot of non-Indians running the country? Look at African countries. Similar story. So clearly, I think that and we see this as this country is becoming less white and more multicultural, it's becoming more dysfunctional. And so we need a common culture, and we all need to respect that. And that means that, yeah, people who are not white can live here. That's not that's not really fundamentally the problem. But there needs to be this understanding and respect. In the same way that I think most people would go to Japan and they would respect the culture, they would respect the people, they would respect the customs, and they would try not to rock the boat or cause too many problems. They likely make an honest effort, an earnest effort to assimilate. I think that that's something that needs to be applied here. So, yeah, anybody that disagrees with Mark Levin is a Nazi. Yeah, dude, I know it's trite, but dude, they sound totally indistinguishable from all these liberals they criticized for years. It's just so true, man. So, there are more Indians than whites on the planet. I think there's like twice as many Indians than whites, something like that. Yeah, pretty scary, huh? So it's like, why can't Indians go live in India? They have a country where, you know, they hate, and that's the thing, man. It's like you have a lot of people that, and obviously I have to say this, it's not all, you know, non-whites. I've got plenty of examples of that. But we do have a serious problem where we have a lot of these immigrants that have just pure animosity towards Americans, white people. And it's like, just think about this logically. How do we have a country that prospers if there's such hostility? Like, why do you want to be here if you hate white people so much? And then you realize it's not about like, it's about our stuff. It's about the money. It's about the opportunity. A lot of these people, and you see this a lot in these like visa workers, like these Indians, have all of this contempt, and they look at like white civilization as like a conquering force, as evil, and it's like, okay, well, why then why are you here? And why should we let you be here if that's how you feel? And it's just so obvious, man. It's like, but they feel emboldened. A lot of these people feel emboldened because of the how lax the immigration laws are, and how multicultural this country really is becoming. They don't feel the pressure to assimilate because they can find their ethnic enclave and advocate for the interests, the political interests of their ethnic group from within the country. And so like our country's just being cut up and like ripped apart, and everyone's got like trying to get their piece of the pie as quickly as they can. And that's not conducive to a productive country. Look at China. China's like dominating because these questions are non-factors in China. They don't have to question what China first means. They don't have to question what a Chinese person is. They know. They're focusing on productive things. They're spending their time talking about productive issues. And that's why they're winning right now. So they always categorize this movement as like a hateful one. It's like, no, dude, it's really not. It's a movement of love. And people will say that's cheesy, but it's 100% true. Because what comes down the pike, if this isn't addressed, is so much worse than I think what people really understand. Because the tensions are just, they're not going anywhere. They're only getting worse. And I do think, look, no one's gonna stand up for white people if not for white people. But anyway. Jewish people tell me all the time that Muslims do not assimilate. Yeah, well, yeah. Yeah. Meanwhile, don't expect them to reply on Saturdays. Don't expect them to reply on Saturdays, though, right? But every other day of the week, they'll tell you how Muslims don't assimilate. And that's not me advocating for Muslims in America, but it's just the pot calling the kettle black. What did Steven Crowder's weighing in? There is nothing inherently anti-MAGA about Tucker Carlson interviewing Nick Fuentes. That being said, there's a right way and a wrong way to have this conversation. It seems like a lot of people are missing the plot. What does Steven have to say about this?
But let me first clarify what should not be a disqualifying factor. And I don't see some of these people there understanding this. Interviewing controversial figures should not be disqualifying at all. Whether it's Nick Fuentes, whether it's Vladimir Putin, whether it's Sergei Lavrov, whether it's Dugan, who we interviewed, Jeffrey Sachs, or Clint Howard, the lady nun.
I was like, wait, what?
These are not disqualifying factors, nor are...
Why are you scandalizing a nun, dude?
Are bow ties, or recently becoming enamored with fly fishing, or even putting bow ties on the fish that you fly.
So we thought it would be interesting to take a look at a contemporary, modern-day, 2024 Russian grocery store 2 years into sanctions. Here we go. So I guess you put in 10 rubles here, and you get it back when you put the cart.
Oh, he discovered Aldi.
Yeah.
So it's free, but there's an incentive to return it. Come on.
Trader Joseph Stalin's.
Unicorn and mini mills. All right. And we all came in around 400
We've all
bucks.
seen this. We've all seen this before.
Ideology maybe doesn't matter as much as you thought. Corruption. If you take people's standard of living and you tank it through filth and crime and inflation, and they literally can't buy the groceries they want, at that point, maybe it matters less what you say or whether you're a good person.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't Steven Crowder have a big public feud with Ben Shapiro in the Daily Wire? Remember that? Wasn't there something like that? I forget. Mark Levin really needs to go back to Israel. There's too many Christian Nazis in America still. Yeah, I mean, look. He has such a problem with America and Americans. Thinks we're all just evil, moral idiots. Okay, well, go live in Israel, dude. If you have nothing but contempt for this country and the people that live here, first of all, why would you expect, why are you surprised when that is reciprocated, when that animosity is reciprocated? Are you really surprised? If you have nothing but hostility, what, you expect the people living here to be okay with that? So that's number one. And two, obviously, it begs the question, if you have such a disdain for this country, go live in Israel. Why not live somewhere else? But then that's when they try to redefine it. It's like, oh, but we're actually America. Oh, we hate what America is becoming. Or these people aren't America first. These people aren't MAGA. They're not conservative. We are. Like, you're in the minority, bud. Literally. You're in no position to make those kinds of claims. It's just not true. Most of the people, frankly, literally are not like you, both in terms of economics, in terms of how much money they have, but also obviously in terms of their identity, in terms of their ethnicity, but also their religion. They're not like you. So you, somebody that is very different, living in a country that's gracious enough to open its doors for you, you that are in a minority are going to lecture the majority about how they ought to act and how we ought to conduct ourselves. And it's dripping with vitriol. Like, who the fuck do you think you are? So again, how you would think that they would have picked up on that. Like, hey, maybe we should pump the brakes on some of this. Maybe we should hear them out. Maybe we should try to be a little more humble. But they just keep doubling down, man. And it's like, dude, you're poking the bear. What do you think? What do you think is going to happen? Yes, it was over money. He read the preliminary contract with Daily Wire. That's right. Something like that. It wasn't really that serious, I remember.
Person or a bad person, you're wrecking people's lives in their country, and that's what our leaders have done to us.
Well, what about Russian leaders literally imprisoning people for holding the wrong political perspectives? Or the fact that 60% of all Russians spend at least half of their income on food because of how poor they are. It should give you pause if someone simps for Sharia law.
Sharia law is bad, Seth. I don't know if you've heard that. It's bad. It's worse than what's happening in New York and Detroit. It's just bad.
Correct.
I don't know why.
It is kind of funny seeing all of these like Con Inc. types like go to war with each other. That's kind of funny. So. Exactly what you said earlier. What did I say earlier? What are we talking about? That's a problem. When everybody's like, I don't know where people are. Like when I say something and then like 30 seconds or a minute later, someone like references something. I don't know what you're like. That time has come and gone, you know? I'm not sure what we're talking about or what you're referencing.
Well, you should know, Seth, that the real danger is Sharia law.
Welcome back, Kumquat.
Sharia law. And you can tell when you go to a place like Abu Dhabi or Riyadh, like, oh man, I hope we don't ever wind up with a society like this.
Now do
With
Kandahar.
a rape rate of 0, where you leave your keys in your Lamborghini and don't ever worry about it being stolen. And, you know, if people want to get wasted, they do it at home. You know what I mean?
Yeah, okay.
And you guys caught that, right? You said a rape rate of 0.
Yeah.
Do you know the statistical likelihood of there being a rape rate of 0 in an Islamic country? Ironically, it's 0. You guys remember this, right? January 1st, 2021, when some of these texts were revealed, he said, we are very, very close to being able to ignore Trump most nights. I truly can't wait. I hate him passionately.
I do find all of this amusing. I do find all of this amusing. Really.
That seems pretty cut and dry. Is there inconsistency in the subject, in this case, Tucker Carlson, in their own views that they espouse? Is it very hard to keep track of? And is there inconsistency with what has been relatively established as conservative, America first, nationalist values? I would say yes. And that has nothing to do with interviewing Nick Fuentes.
No.
Who maybe, we'll have on the show at some point in the future. I'm sure I would agree with him on some things and disagree with him on a whole bunch of things. Probably would be less of a debate and certainly not like a softball like Tucker Carlson. Like that's what an interview serves. That's its purpose, is to get answers, usually from the person most qualified to give those answers. But if you just skim past them, that's where I think you're right to be skeptical.
Does everybody see what's happening now? Does everybody see like why this was such a monumentally successful interview? Now Steven Crowder just said he's open to having Nick on his show. Dude, he was afraid to even mention Nick just a few years ago. Israel's not controlling the U.S. government. It's Qatar. Tucker has his arms crossed in a defensive posture. But body language and all that. But like this is like, look, here's Crowder insinuating that having somebody on your show isn't like a full endorsement of everything they believe, but also that it's not really a big deal. Like you're not platforming. It's not like the most evil thing in the world. Look at how things are changing, man. So who knows? Maybe we'll see Nick on Louder with Crowder. Maybe. And so clearly, like this question of what is America first, what is MAGA, what is even conservative or Republican or right wing, it's all up in the air now. The presupposition that was the foundation has sort of been broken and it needs to be reestablished. We need to answer these fundamental questions. Who is we? Who is we? And so new lines are being drawn, and this is a very exciting development. So Tucker Carlson has bigger balls than Jimmy Dore does. Jimmy was afraid of the backlash he would receive from having Nick Fuentes on his show. Jimmy was afraid to mention Nick. Yeah, I remember that. He was supposed to go on, but he canceled because he got the call. It's like, you feel stupid now, buddy? You feel stupid? Now that Tucker and now that Nick is going mainstream, like, don't you feel dumb for canceling on Nick? Steven Crowder is a kosher conservative.
But let me first clarify.
I mean, for the most part, yes. But again, these people are also, they have self-preservation in mind. They're reading the room, and maybe they're slow to the punch, but they see how things are changing. They see what is popular, look, it's not like they don't have a comment section. They read the comment section. They're getting ratioed by groypers. They're looking at a lot of these posts. They're seeing how unpopular they're becoming. And then for their own sake, they are changing. They're changing their tune. They're readjusting the strategy because, they don't want to find themselves suddenly outside the Overton window by supporting Israel, which is no longer popular. That's politics. Anyway, Nick is going live, everyone. Nick is too big for Crowder. Who knows if he goes on Tim Pool? Nick should go on Rogan next. Well, he should ideally do I don't think there's anything wrong with going on these shows now, but it's at the point we could see his official endorsement carrying a lot of weight. I think even going into the midterms, we'll see. But certainly by the time 2028 rolls around, he's actually in a very real, tangible, but most importantly, an overt way, he will be engaged in politics, and I think in the election, and because that's where we're going. You think he's big now? Just imagine in a few years. He's literally undeniable. Anyway, everyone, I know we just did a lot of glazing, but it's true. There's every reason to be excited. This is all good stuff. And so this will, big show, everyone. Big show. Yeah, Nick is going live. He posted a tweet. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and hit the bell notification to get notified when I go live. Other socials in the description. Yeah. Leave your comments. Who do you think is coming out on top in this big rift? What do you think the Republican Party is going to look like going into the midterms and then 2028? What is conservatism? Who's going to win in this tug of war? Anyway, let me know your thoughts, guys. 07 great content, best pre-show. Oh, thank you, Smell. Appreciate that. Yeah, this will be a good show. Nick always has some of his best shows whenever somebody's talking shit. Straight up. This will be good, I think. So anyway, thank you guys for hanging out. Go watch Nick. He's live now on Rumble. Yeah, take care and God bless. Oh, yeah, Nick wants to talk to Bannon. We'll see. We'll see, dude. We'll see. There's a coalition building. We're watching coalition building right now. So, it'll be very interesting. Anyway, good night, everyone. Have a great time. I'll see you all next time.